Yo, Shabo, I gotta connect, yo, for the Knicks. This Uber driver, homeboy said that I got $500 to play at the Garden and to like get 2 low-level tickets, and you get the jersey and you get like your pictures taken, video, and mad shit, like other free shit too.
So 500 to play one game.
Yeah, to play a game.
Okay, so what, you bring your own 10 or
Nah,
some
you
league,
just
or?
you just play, pretty much you're paying for a spot.
Oh, okay, and they put you on a team.
Yeah.
So it's 500 dolly for you by yourself.
Yeah, and you get 2 Knicks tickets. You get 2 lower level seats.
That's kind of dope. Because the
Yeah.
low level seats by itself is like 500. So you get all the extra shit.
I definitely
2 seats and.
Yeah, I'm doing that shit. It's at the end of the month, so.
I
say I like to say I'm doing it.
Oh,
So if y'all want to do it, if you want to do it, if you want to dust off those
So
kicks, Raine.
basically- But what do you have to do?
So it's just you pretty much you're paying for a spot to play and paying for your tickets and a jersey, custom jersey, and a bunch of other free shit.
That's lit. I'm not gonna lie. That's super lit.
So if y'all want to do it,
that
let me
is
know.
lit.
We ready to go.
We'll do 5 seconds of silence just so I can ignore introduction. We'll get started.
Ooh, you gonna do it?
I'm a 1999 driver.
Yo, episode 22.
22. Two twos.
2-2.
22.
20 toes. 22 twos.
Y'all remember when y'all turned 22?
My birthday's actually on the 22nd too, so that would have been my golden birthday, right? I don't even remember what I did. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. My
Whatever.
sister's
I was
birthday's this month, February 22nd. So that's interesting.
Lit. Yeah.
Yeah.
222. That's dope.
22. I couldn't wait to turn 23. I don't know. 22 was just a weird
Wow,
age.
Jordan?
That not really that. Maybe so. I don't know. But I know. I vividly remember when I turned 21. I bought a bottle of it wasn't Henny because we didn't drink Henny back in college days. We drunk E&J.
Oh my God.
We drank
Easy
Easy Jesus.
Jesus, that shit.
We drank Easy Jesus. I bought a bottle of that, and I bought
That shit is rough.
bought another bottle, and I remember mixing it inside this high C punch.
And then did not end well
It
for you.
didn't end well, but I was fucked up. I was drunk as shit. We did a lot of crazy shit in college, man.
E&J that shit makes my head hurt.
Yo, I don't think people drink that. Is that bottom shelf now? Is that down
It
with
is.
Christian
yeah.
Brothers?
It's above Christian.
above
Brothers.
Christian Brothers, but it ain't like
I
any
mean,
of none of
it's a
that
respected brand. It's just I don't know. It's
You
just,
cannot give me any
you
advice.
know what
Fuck
with it.
Like you could get
It
that
fucks up
big
the
ass bottle
stomach.
for $10, so you know that's what it is. Like when you see
Nah,
that,
that
you know what
Easy
it is.
Jesus was popping back
yeah, I
then,
can't
son.
fuck. Yeah, back then I can't fuck with that shit now. Sorry.
Yeah, but episode 22.
Hell
All
yeah.
right, there's a lot of shit
22.
going on.
There's a lot of shit going on.
Yo,
Hell
but
yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are Knicks fans, but I mean, I guess I'm not.
I'm a Knicks fan
not.
by nature.
But I thought you was. You're a Magic Johnson fan.
I'm a
Nah,
Lakers. I'm a Magic Johnson Lakers fan.
Oh, so you're that era type.
that
Okay.
era. So, because I grew up in that era.
Okay.
That's the '80s.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Crispus Porzingis.
I think it was a good deal.
What do you think about that deal?
Shit, Dennis Smith and DeAndre Jordan.
That's
two
what I was
first
saying.
rounders.
Explain to me what happened though, because
So,
I didn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
Porzingis was the best player
Mhm.
for a while, for a couple years. I think when he got hurt last year, he was averaging like 23 and like
Yeah.
6 or something like that. So that's pretty respectable. That's he was the top player in the NBA. I would say I'll give him. He was a top 20 player in the league. They traded him for some assets,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was a win-win because having him, they wasn't doing nothing. Well, how many games did they win last year when they had him, or even the year before that? Like
And I think the Knicks
They traded him for who though?
Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan.
and two
two first
future
rounders.
first round draft picks.
Yeah, there were a couple other people
2021,
involved in it too.
2023,
Yeah.
I think.
So
2020.
2020 draft and a 2022, I think.
yeah. So it's years down the line, but still, that's still giving you, that's setting you up for success down the line.
Yeah,
I guess because the Knicks never have a first round
They traded
draft.
them.
They always
shits.
have
they
like
always just trade them shits.
they
traded
do.
Yeah, and then when they do get a lottery pick, they fuck up and then they
I
get
thought
somebody
they always
from
have like the number.
Pluto.
20th
never heard of.
person. I feel like they never have like a top. They never get like a top recruit.
Well, Nikila was what 7, I think.
He was in
that
a
was
lot
like
of,
the 7th pick or something.
and that's
But
why.
I mean, like a number. This
and they got
trade
Wesley
was for a
Matthews.
number 1 guy, right? Or
Nah,
just a first round.
Just the first
Nah,
round,
it's
yeah.
not the number 1. That's just the first round. Not
Oh,
the
okay.
first pick.
How come the Knicks never get a number 1 guy?
Yo, was Ewing the last Knicks number 1 pick?
I think so.
That's what I'm
That's
saying. Why don't the Knicks ever
crazy.
get a number 1 guy?
It's a lottery though.
Yeah.
So like all the teams that
Mhm.
did make the playoffs, they put the shit into a lottery, and then it's picked out, and then whoever wins the lottery gets the first pick.
But
So the
damn, in
Knicks just
20
haven't-
years,
even more than that, because Ewing had like 30 years ago. Real
That's
shit.
crazy. Yeah, over 30
And the
years.
Cavs won
It's
that shit like
tight-whack,
3
yo.
years out of 4.
Because LeBron
And
gets
Braun.
whatever he wants.
Yeah, nah, and then no, it was after Braun though, right?
Fucking LeBron.
It was after Braun left though.
But still.
So within the last 16 years, the Cavs won that shit 4 times, bro.
No, but this is
Real
me.
shit.
But
and
wait,
so
wait,
that
wait.
was just by chance.
It's
I
a
think it's got.
lottery.
I don't
Yeah.
believe that.
I think
yo.
this-
I
this is me
gotta fuck with her
in
on
my
that.
conspiracy theory, though. I feel like LeBron. This is me. My conspiracy theory, though. Check out how the Cavs, when he left, they were able to get 2 consecutive number 1 draft
back-to-back
picks.
years. Yeah.
And think about what happened with one of those picks, though. They get Kyrie.
Mhm.
What happens? He comes back to Cleveland.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's kind of like they kind of put those pieces in place,
Definitely.
knowing that he was gonna come back.
I think they might have repaid. They was repaying Gilbert because
Uh-huh.
remember how crazy he was crying when Braun
Mhm.
left. Dan Gilbert is the real reason why Chris Paul didn't go to the Lakers. Because when they made that deal, he cried so much. Like, oh, yeah, let the NBA. Like, he was writing letters and getting
Mhm.
other owners to write letters and shit. He was the
Mhm.
real person that fucked everything up. He cried so much that they deaded it. So, you might just be like, yo, give them the first pick, man. So, shut up.
Now they definitely would have had 6 rings.
Easy. I think 7, bro.
That's
'Cause-
crazy though,
Because
man.
look at what Chris Paul did last year
hmm
with the Rockets.
Yeah.
They damn near had Golden State on their back. So now rewind the clock back 7 years and put them on the Lakers with Kobe. What the fuck is about to happen, bro? That shit would have been.
Yeah, Kobe
son.
never had a caliber point guard like that.
Nah.
No offense to Smush Parker,
Smush is
because I
my
like
dude.
Smush Parker.
Smush is my dude.
He's a
but,
friend of the show.
But that, yeah, hell yeah. He's definitely a friend of the show. Shout to Smush. But that kind of ended Kobe's career early because in
Yeah.
the last 2 years, he had to be the main ball handler, the main distributor,
Yeah.
the main defensive perimeter guy. Like, we got
Yeah.
Nash and he ain't do shit.
Yeah.
And Kobe decided to play point guard. That just broke his body down.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that though, as far as like the teams, like or these NBA teams, they wanting to like sign these high caliber players, like it's turning into like I can appreciate Milwaukee Bucks. I can appreciate a team like that because they're building a team around Giannis and they have a solid team because they've been together for some time.
True.
You got these teams like who are trying to do it the Golden State way, but people forget Golden State. They
incredibly.
drafted. They did that in house. Like they built that. I mean, KD just added more weaponry. Like you know what I'm saying?
They got one free agent, and when you really think about it, if you look at all the draft picks, I think Steph was what 7th. Clay had to be like 19th. Draymond had to be like 20 something. So there's mad teams that could have had all 3 of them that drafted before Golden State in all of them drafts and didn't draft them. So people trying to make it seem like Golden State did this. Nah, they drafted well. They did their homework. Y'all other teams' front offices were bullshitting, and then they signed one free agent.
Yeah.
That wasn't like, Braun and Bosh and them niggas coming together like doing that on some free agent shit. They just drafted very well.
And that's why I put that on my post on Facebook. I said, like the NBA is turning into like a AAU circuit. I mean, everybody wants to
similar.
play with one another, and the competition is kind of like it's turning one-sided a little bit, in my opinion. But if the reports are true, like everybody wants to play with this one. Like AD said he wants to come to LA to play with LeBron, which I don't know how true that is.
A little bit is that a little bit. I mean, winning gets you more bread. So this being a business, if one team is doing that, then it's kind of like to compete, you got to do what you got to do. So I'm not really mad at the teams for doing it, but it's super corny. I don't like the shit. Like my competitive spirit, I want to beat whoever's the best. I don't want to play on the team with whoever's the best.
So you as a Laker fan, who would you want to see in purple and gold?
Honestly, I wanted. It's no secret. I'm not like the crazy LeBron guy. I wanted Kawhi over LeBron. I'm not crazy with the LeBron in the jersey or whatever. But now that he's here, whatever, he's here. I want AD. I'm not gonna lie. AD's one of the top players in the league. I definitely want AD. So I take it, and I think the league owes the Lakers AD because of the Chris Paul shit. So
That's interesting, and to bring it back to that full circle, New Orleans Pelicans, they used to be the Hornets.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's the same organization, which is
Serendipitous.
owned by the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
which was super bullshit when they reneged the trade because literally the NBA agreed to it. Like, because the NBA owns the Pelicans and they agreed to the Chris Paul trade, and then Dan Gilbert and the rest of them bitches cried so much that they reneged the trade.
But if you think about it, they have to give up. Would you give up everybody? Ball,
Yup.
Kuzma, Rondo, Ingram.
The only one I care about is Kuzma and Ingram. And hell yeah, if I got to give up Kuzma and Ingram to get AD, yes. I love y'all. Y'all are dope, but sorry. AD is a top 5 player. The top 6 at max. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
could
y'all
be
not
one.
y'all not winning this year. Is that you good with
No.
that?
We wasn't winning this year no matter what. Like, that shit was not even an option. There's no
Yeah.
way. The Lakers might fuck around and have the Warriors in the first round.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
So
If they make the playoffs right now, the way the West is turning, I don't know, man.
Lakers making the playoffs.
I don't know. It's not far fetched.
No,
It's
bro,
not far fetched,
Broncos
man.
Make the playoffs.
All right.
The Clippers, I don't know. I could see them falling out.
I don't know, man. I will say this, though. LeBron, I think he rushed his injury, though. I mean, he rushed coming back.
Out a month. How much longer he going
Because
to stay out?
it's a groin injury. I'm not sure if you ever had one of those.
Yeah, shit just nags.
They're nagging injuries, and
A month, man. Come on, man. You gotta.
but for you to come back and then you come back against the Clippers, you beat them in overtime, and then you out this game.
I think that was a little convenient. It's
Well-
against a back-to-back against the Warriors. You know y'all gonna probably lose anyway. You played 40 minutes the night before you just came back. That's a
I
little
say you
convenient,
sit out.
like,
I think you sit out against the Clippers, but you play against the Warriors.
I feel like he gonna lose that game anyway. They feel like they gonna lose that game anyway. With an 80% Braun, they gonna lose it anyway. So they feel like, why even fuck it? We could get this game against the Clippers. Sit them down against.
I don't know. That don't make sense to me. You play 40+ minutes against the Clippers, and you sit against the Warriors.
You're not gonna win the game with him anyway.
They beat the Warriors at home. I mean, and Oracle. Remember that when they smacked them?
Yeah, but that was with Braun. He played that first half, and then
And
he
then
got
they-
hurt.
and then
they
they-
was already up 15 or 20 by that time. Like it was a different, like, they in their stride now. They won 12 in a row. Like, come on.
Well, they lost one. They lost at home to Philly, but
Yeah, they got smoked by Philly. though.
yeah, that's crazy though, man. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I like to see teams go up against the Goliath and win. I wouldn't mind seeing another team win the chip this year, even
Hell
though it's
yeah.
not gonna happen.
I want Houston to win
Yeah.
Harden, but
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
yo, they had
That's not gonna
they
happen.
was up 3-2 before what's the name got hurt to try
This
to make
year
it
is
seem like it
different,
sounds
man.
crazy. Yo,
This
to
year is
make it
different.
to make it seem like it sounds crazy, they just got Manimal on the low. That shit was a huge pickup on the low, bro. Kenneth Fareed with Chris Paul and what's the name? That's huge. And
We'll
they were
see.
saying the Knicks might waive Jordan and ship him out, and he might get up in Houston. You never know, bro.
Now, Clint Capella, is his injury that significant?
Clint Capella's gonna be out a little while. I think like even a month more. They were saying like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or something like that.
I don't know, man, but we'll see. We'll see. Raine, so what's up with you and this face off, man? You got a lot of love. Well, how do I say? Your thighs got a lot of love. On the yo.
I didn't watch it yet.
Me, I'm gonna
Wait,
tell you,
hold
I'm
on,
gonna tell you,
hold
I'm
on,
gonna tell you the
hold
type of dude that I am, right?
Who said?
I'm gonna tell you the type of dude that I am. When I go on YouTube, I'm the dude that checks comments.
Oh hell yeah!
Like
of
when
course.
I watch a battle, I like to get a feel of who they thought won. So you get a consensus, right?
Of course.
So I'm checking the comments and shit.
Gotta go through that when I go
I'm
home.
going through the comments. Yo, Raine's thighs 3-0. He like,
These guys are retarded, yo.
that was the
I'm
most
like, these are
creative
the
one.
same guys that have been around. This is the third face-off I've done.
It was like, yo, it was like, them thighs.
Niggas are stupid.
I will say-
Didn't care about the content.
Right.
Not a game. You talking about thighs.
Fuck the game.
Fuck the game. Fuck the battle.
Oh, man.
These
Yo,
guys are crazy.
y'all
I will
are
say
stupid.
though that even though I felt weird about the face-off itself, I am getting a lot of love overall. I compared it to Verb versus Mook, which was the first one I did for RB, and that was just as intense, but it was also my first time, and so it got way more love. People are hitting me with, I get the hate too, but I don't really care about that because I feel like I'm still kind of like, we still provide. We're the only other ones that are doing it at that level of, outside of champion or whatever. So, I don't really care about that. I am trying to just work on like getting better at it, but I realize it's not but so much I can do other than instigate and try to move it along. I'm just trying to like master like stepping outside of it because the tension between them was really like
They was on some real personal shit, like
Right.
shit they should have might have discussed without no cameras and shit.
right.
like,
And I feel like I ended up feeling like, see me, I'm coming from a point of I get the idea of selling it, so it's also my responsibility. So
Yeah.
at certain times, I was feeling like I'm like a fucking mediator right now, not a moderator.
word,
You know what I'm saying?
word,
So
word.
I wish I do hear the people saying that about taking more control, and so I'm gonna like step up a little bit with the press conference because I think the control comes in from them knowing what they're there for.
Yeah.
They act like they don't know what they're there for. Not just them. I'm talking about battle rappers in general. Like, do you know why you're here? You're here to sell a battle. Like,
Why is that so hard? Like, why?
but I feel like you have. I feel like so now between me and y'all, like, well, and everyone who's listening, but
Shout out to everyone who's listening.
um.
Who will be listening.
For the press conference, I'm going to take that control. I started like practicing, but like off rip before we start, I'm letting all the battlers know, like, attention, this is what you're here for. Like, coming up here with the energy, like you don't want to be here. First of all,
Yeah.
you're not doing RBE a favor. They paid for this. You know,
Real.
I'm gonna give them all that. Like, don't come up here because a lot of them. See, the other thing too is, if I keep it real with y'all, I feel like what I'm also up against is why, as far as being compared to Jay Black, and some people also give me the whole like, well, he doesn't do but so much either. Like, I know what he does, but he doesn't have to get past that first barrier, which is the respect, right? So I do have a rapport with a lot of them, but some of them, they kind of make me feel like the woman in the locker room type shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Nah, definitely.
like why you in here? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Like how they
Uh-huh.
treat women, like
Yeah.
commentators or a reporter. Like,
Absolutely.
either
Absolutely.
you are oversexed or they kind of like it's sexual or it's boys only type shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the energy I get sometimes. So I have to break through that first.
Yeah.
If I keep it real with y'all, I have more of a rapport with Math actually, and like than Hollow. But Hollow is the one who gave me the better energy. But I wasn't.
Definitely, yeah.
And everyone
Watching
told me that watching it. Even the crew there was like, I don't know why Math was giving you whatever. So I'm like, I don't really care about that. But what I do care about is, so I'm saying that is a part of it, like having to get past that. So if I take accountability, which I like to do, it's on me as a moderator or a host to kind of create that comfort level too. It's on them, but I gotta demand it. Like, yo, because you see how I talk here? That person doesn't come out because I feel like I'm on set. Like on my own show, I get at, I can get at you, like, or whatever. But in that setting, like, it just makes me feel like I'm trying to be professional.
True.
But it's like, it's battle rap, so how professional can I be? Because they're not professional.
Yeah, that was like some like
You know what I'm saying?
some family therapy shit. Like y'all should have did that shit by yourself. Like, oh, you my man, and see what this happened and when that. Like, come
But
on,
I do
bro.
feel like
Sell a
Hollow
battle.
was a better showman, though.
Yeah, he
yeah,
was.
I agree.
was
But
very professional.
You saying that you had more of a rapport with Math than Hollow was
I
definitely.
mean, in real life,
yeah, that's what I'm
so
saying.
I'm
Yeah, but
like,
watching it, you wouldn't have thought that.
he
like,
gave me more respect, and
Yeah,
I'm just like,
definitely.
and then like that's neither here nor there, but it's always one of them. That's why I'm saying I'm gonna start letting them know because it's always one person that doesn't get it. Like, you're not doing us a favor.
Word.
You're not doing anybody a favor.
Yeah.
Like, so if you look like a sucker in the face-off, that's on you, dude.
Word up.
You know what I mean? Because Kayshawn tried to do that BS talking about, oh, they made him look like. No, nigga, you sat there and you let yourself. To me, it was nothing wrong with how Kayshawn and Jay Mills went back and forth. But Kayshawn was way more laid back than he usually is.
Super laid
And so,
back, yeah.
you know, the culture, they got at him like, you know, like, why you, whatever. So at the press conference, he was all the way turned up. And then he tried to put it on RBE. Like, oh, y'all edited it like that.
Yeah.
How could they edit what you did, dude?
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying I'm going to start like telling them. And after I say that, after that, it's like whatever. But if I put it in their head, because even in talking to like the owners, it's like they thinking, I'm like, y'all should communicate with me what y'all want as well, because I'm the last person to talk to them before we get rolling.
Yeah.
Someone has to prep them because they don't. This is why battle rap will also just be stagnant.
But why do you have to explain that to them? No, like this is like not to say that this is not no, you know, like. But
yo, at the press conference last time, a lot of them came up with this whack energy, and I try like, because I know one rule in life is not to take things personally. I try not to make it be about me. Yeah. This is just you. But if I, at the same token, it is on me because I'm there. You know, I'm in between it. So I have to thug them out. Like, yo, that's why I said this time, like, yo, I'm going to make an announcement out of nowhere.
I mean, do they have managers and shit and, like, people that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe they got to get, like, their team better. I mean, I don't even think that's an excuse.
Math is a better showman than that, though.
That's what I'm saying. Knowing them from their prior shit and being so good at the battle, you would think that they would realize that, yo, this is a platform to promote my shit. I need to make sure that it's, like, a certain way. Like, I would have even been like, yo, bro, fuck all that other bullshit that, you know, whatever. We'll discuss that when we discuss it, but let's sell this fucking shit. Like, you see after Floyd, when him and McGregor fought, after the fight, you saw the hug, the embrace that they gave each other. Yo, we just got this $100 million bag, bro. Right. All that shit we was saying, your family and all that shit was to sell this fucking fight, man. We sold the fight and we got the money. Now let's laugh all the way to the bank. Like,
some people also they feel like they don't want to be. So that's what I was going to say to them. You don't have to be disingenuous or be extra.
Nah,
but still just sell the battle, yo. Man. You are a showman. If you're a natural showman as a performer, you have to be a showman during the press conference too. Like, what are we here for? And then Math went on. I gotta watch it. Sometimes I gotta force myself just to do even more work, to watch it because, like, to get more information. Because Math then went on, and I read the comments. That's what I did. I didn't watch it. He went on Champion after the face-off.
Okay.
Right?
I didn't see that.
To talk about the face-off. Okay. And about the whatever, right? So I'm reading the comments, and that's why I don't take shit personally, because I didn't watch it myself yet, but they're saying the same thing how I felt. They're like, this guy's just going from platform to platform, just not crying, but they, you know, because to me, this is what I'm going to tell him. You went out your way not to be the bully and not to be emo, and you still came off the same way.
I think so.
You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like he wasn't giving his all. He was trying not to be seen a certain way. Yeah. But you still ended up being, and he wasn't really emo in my opinion, but they still calling you emo because you're trying too hard not to be something. Just be you, yo.
Do what you do, bro.
Like, this is how Brooklyn do. Every time I look at you, give niggas that. You got your core following. Cater to the core following. Don't cater to the niggas who's throwing shade, yo.
Word up.
And that's why I feel like I gotta prep them and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, same thing with a lot of them. Like, I'm gonna tell them, do not come up here with that whack dead energy, yo.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Niggas be sitting there like,
word, say your shit, drink your shit, smoke your shit before, but make
if
sure
I was gonna say, go smoke a blunt, go drink some liquor, do what you gotta do, and loosen up, yo.
Word, I don't like that shit, man. Yeah, and Raine shouldn't have to be prepping y'all.
What up, Q?
What up, Q?
What up? But yeah, you
y'all
know,
professionals, man. Don't
they
don't
not
put that
really
on
though.
Raine. Y'all law though. As much money as y'all getting paid to
they
do these
should
shits,
be professionals.
And as many times as many battles. How many Math Hoffa battles?
That's
y'all done
true.
seen? How many Hollow battles we all unwatched? Hollow fucking battle Joe Budden on that, but that huge fucking like that was fucking wasn't that shit on like MTV or some shit like that?
That was on it was on MTV. I think it was on.
That shit was
Fuse.
super big though.
It
was
big.
Like come on, bro.
But that's
like,
what I'm
niggas,
saying. He still had more showmanship.
Definitely,
but
but even him still like.
But he's laid back, right?
Yeah.
So normally the best face-offs are high versus low.
True. Yeah, you gotta have.
But
the
they both,
opposing.
if he's laid back and still trying to be a showman, and then this one is like all the way like no energy. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying it's more on the moderator too, to be like, but sometimes I couldn't even get in there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, they was working out their little.
They were working out
they homie beef, like son.
I mean, it
that
goes.
shit-
It's
y'all think I was biased though?
bias of who? That's I asked you like what
Yo,
bias
mad
was he
people
talking
saying I
about?
was biased to Hollow.
you didn't come off as biased. I guess the only way people I can see why
Because
people.
Mav said that dumb shit.
I can because when you put something in the air, of
And
course
they don't
people
think for
gravitate
themselves,
for it.
yo.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think the reason why people say that is the fact that Hollow was so professional, and it seemed like you were. It was
It
as
was
if
energy.
Yeah, it was just
But
energy.
that's
Your energy was
organic.
more or less
It's
like
like
that.
if you come in the room and
Yeah.
one person is not giving me energy, I'm not gonna like cater to the person who's
Yeah.
not giving me energy.
Of course.
Even though I wasn't
Yeah,
not
you mean-
catering, I was trying to be. And the same thing I said to Hollow, I said to Math. I'm like, well, people actually had Math winning because they felt like he was gonna talk. And Hollow
Oh
was like, who?
shit! Yeah,
I
word.
was
I didn't even remember
biased.
that
He was like,
part.
who
yeah,
said that?
Word.
Who? I'm like, a lot of people said that. A lot of people got Math 2-1.
Word. Yeah, I didn't even remember that
I'm,
part. You ain't
I'm
lying.
feeling like I'm reporting what the culture is saying. That's what I'm there for. Like, I can't. This is what also keeps me from saying stuff too. Is because I feel like if I say one thing, this person's going to start bitching. If I say, that's what happened with Mook versus Verb. They had me under pressure because I felt like it was such high testosterone. Like they was so like the egos was like so high.
Fuck if they get
I
mad,
know.
yo.
But it's like, oh, so why you say that to him? Oh, why you say? I'm like, son, this is what I'm here for.
But to your
You know what I'm
to
saying?
your point,
I'm
though,
not biased to any of you.
But to your point, though, as far as saying like they should be trained, think about this though. When you get into any type of big organization or big league, like for example the NBA, NFL, they prep you
Yeah,
for
you
things
get
like that.
media
You get
training.
media training,
Yeah, you
like
ain't lying.
so you don't get baited into saying some shit that you'll regret after. So
Word.
maybe that's something that Smack, ARP, whomever these league owners, they need to prep these battle rappers on because
See,
those
I don't
type
think
of
that's
things
on
are
the league.
essential.
I think it's on the individual talents. Like you gotta know. That's
But
your
think
shit.
about
Like,
it
it's
though.
not
I
a-
mean, if it's something that's gonna be put out there, like fuck, Smack was on BET. Like these people are going to be on the big screen.
I mean, if the league start giving people contracts, like, all right, you're
They
under,
get
you know what I'm saying?
contracts.
But I mean, like, you under this a year contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're signed for 5 years from us, and we're paying you X amount. Then they'll start doing it. But until they start making those kind of investments, like, I don't think like that's on RBE to give y'all media.
I don't know.
training,
I
like-
think about it like
People
it,
underestimate. I don't think I came here myself.
Oh,
There you go.
Sorry, thanks. People underestimate like all of the players that are a part of something like that because like it's you who hires the manager who knows that you like
True.
probably needs to go get media training,
Yeah.
right? But like if you hire a manager and you're not sure like all of the qualifications that your manager should have, then you're not gonna think to hire someone who has the versatility or the knowledge base to think about all the types of things that you need to consider in order to
Yeah.
be professional or represent yourself.
And that's what
professionally.
I don't even have a problem of me doing that because I feel like that's what I'm trying to provide anyway. Even for I guess artists in general. Like that's why I posted that ASAP Rocky thing because he was so articulate. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of times artists think that they don't. I think this era thinks that you don't need an interview, but you do because that's what connects you to the people. People start being so, like the Blueface guy. I feel more connected.
baby.
I feel more connected when I hear your story, you know, and not that interview on Breakfast Club did anything but bad for him actually, but hearing him on different platforms and having him tell his story and seeing what you really are about, it aids in your platform.
Absolutely.
So you should be able to. A lot of artists are kind of afraid to talk. Just talk, you know, like. To me, the best people to interview are the ones that actually engage and do most of the talking. An interviewer that doesn't really want to have to ask mad questions.
Absolutely.
And I want to, if I do ask a lot of questions, I want to ask questions because you're so. I'm hearing so much thing like good stuff coming from you that it makes me like, oh well, I didn't know that.
But-
How about this? You
But
know what
people
I'm
could
saying?
be brilliant and not know how to articulate themselves. You know what I mean?
But that's
Brilliantly.
also where
And
the
I feel like-
training comes in,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, your basics are outside of, not just. I'm not going to teach you how to articulate per se, but try to teach you how to just to engage more.
Yeah,
Because
or
some
even
artists be
understand
like,
what causes you to retreat, so that you can like.
right? Because some
Absolutely.
artists just straight be like, yes, No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yo,
I grew
that
up
shit
there.
be getting me so
I'm from Brooklyn.
mad.
Be like, you don't have nothing else to say.
And I be sitting there like,
Have you never watched a fucking interview before?
those are the
Like,
worst interviews, yo. Sidebar, one of our worst interviews with this kid from Harlem. Yo, this dude would not look at me the entire time. Like
I'm
that interview
nervous.
was like, I had to even tell him like off, like, son, you gotta like look, because he was just straight like, he was just like, I don't know, like he was just looking straight ahead. But it was, and then he was so like, even how like my tonality like right now, he was not even upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh my gosh, this is like, scratching your hand down the freaking chalkboard. Like this is terrible right now.
Thanks for
You know what I
giving me
mean?
that. Nah.
I know, but some artists like they need media training, yo.
That's what I'm saying. I think it would benefit a lot of battle rappers because essentially they are a walking brand. They are their own brand. So if they don't brand themselves in a way where it's profitable for them, they're gonna suffer. And I think Math, he's at that point where, dude, you pretty much been given like second, third chances, and you pretty much been fucking your money up.
Word.
Especially with that whole shit with Dose and then with Disaster. I don't know. I just feel like it would help the platform as far as battle rap, and also will help the battle rapper. And
can you be mad if you're not super popping when you're not kind of making yourself seem super sellable? You know what I'm saying? Like the bigger platforms are watching these things to see, yo, is this somebody we should invest in? Is this somebody we could give an endorsement deal to? Is this somebody we could put on the cover of our magazine? When you sitting there just fucking like a dead digger, oh nah, I want to put my money on that. Sell your fucking selves, my nigga. Y'all got to this platform now. Y'all got an opportunity to fucking break through. Sell it, nigga. Like,
case in
come
point,
on.
like K-Shine and fucking DNA, they was on ESPN.
Exactly. Sell that shit,
But
bro.
this is, you guys,
Get the
this
fucking
is with
money.
the assumption that people know how. What's interesting about like reality shows is that it exposes you to people like undergoing the process of trying to figure out how to control themselves so that they can sell themselves. And like to you, it might come easy because like you have your mind set on a larger goal. But so many people like. And it's funny because they oftentimes say that the people with the like deepest level of creativity are the folks that deal with the most trauma, but it's also those folks who don't know how to control themselves or demonstrate control in like tough situations. And you sit, and sometimes reality shows like create a platform that shows you like them dealing with the struggle of trying to like be successful, but not being able to be successful because they don't know how to demonstrate freaking self-control. Like as a simple example,
That's
you know what I mean?
deep
But
as
it's
shit.
easier said than done.
Yeah.
I had a self-reflective moment on that one.
Thanks, Q.
I mean,
Thoughts with Q on a Sunday.
I don't be watching reality shows just for bullshit.
Nah, that was a dope. I never even.
Or maybe that's me justifying why I watch them.
Fuck it. You don't gotta justify why you watch something. You want to watch it.
What?
Bringing it back to
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
bringing it back to that, not to even harp on him with that, but that's also when he punched Sirius. What is that? That's
I
that's
forgot
a lack
about that.
of
Yeah,
self-control.
Yeah, that was. And Hollow brought that up in an interview with you when I think it was just you and him. I'm like, yo.
What Sirius said again? That shit was
He
so
just said,
long, I forgot.
Woo! He said, "Woo!"
And he snubbed him because he said, woo.
You know how many battle rappers do shit like that?
Bro, I done seen so much spit. I done seen.
He
I'm gonna
snuffed him
kill
because he
you.
didn't like him.
Yeah.
And period.
And he
See,
gave
I
him a
gave him
quick
a
reason.
pass off of Dose. Because Dose, he gave him a warning. He was like, yo, get out my face, son. He'll get up. He told him 3 times, and he still was like in his face rapping like, okay, you're not going to back up?
Yeah,
So I'm
telling
duffing you.
That made me want to watch battle rap. Not even going to hold you.
Oh,
Really?
You know what happened? I'll never forget. I was in college. I know we
that's why
getting way
Mona
off.
be winning.
Excuse me?
I said, and that's why Mona be winning.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
No. But for real, how they sold it was they would play like different like hot clips of different battles
they
and what
would
they
show
did,
that as an
and they
intro.
showed that
Yeah,
as an
they would.
intro.
They would.
And I'm
They
like,
marketed
oh
it.
shit,
gets poppin'.
this shit gets crazy. This shit gets crazy in battle rap.
I ain't mad at you.
That's why y'all make me
You know,
wanna
but
go,
that's funny.
like,
They
go and
did
dig up
market
battle
it.
rap
They
sites.
marketed that
They
way,
did.
so it's
They
kind of
did.
like what you said, like with Mona.
You know what? That's a good thing. I'm going to bring that up
Yeah.
in the press conference to
Yeah.
kind of give him like, it's not a pass.
It's
but
not, but it's
They kind of fueled it.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
They
I mean,
birthed
But
this
that's
math
why I
hopper.
give, but only because that was different though. That
Mm-hmm.
is like some old school battle rap shit. First of all, old school rules. You cannot be. This is why. I mean, the serious shit was no, but you can't talk through my rounds while I'm rapping. that will get you punched in the
Yo,
face.
yeah, nah,
Cause
don't
I
do
don't,
that.
even in my own battle versus Matrimony, she was like nonstop talking. I had to stop her, like, yo,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up, I'm
Yeah.
rapping, yo.
That's
Like, you know what I'm
violation,
saying? Like, do you
yeah.
want to fight? Because that's disrespectful.
Her name was Matrimony.
Matrimony.
People try
But
to,
in the
yeah.
middle of that round, I stopped and was like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, what's wrong with you? Cause how you ad-libbing everything I said, she's like, nope, yep, no. Like,
Like, can you let
You
that
are
shit
being
like,
disres-
rest with the
defense.
crowd? Like,
that's
shut the fuck up.
disrespectful.
Trying to play defense.
And back in the day, if you was rapping like outside, that it could end up in a fight.
And that also tries to like deflect the impact of your
Yeah.
bar too.
It
Playing
does.
defense.
Yeah.
But luckily, I was so on point as far as prep,
Mm-hmm.
that it didn't bother me. Because see, stuff like that can fuck you up. You'd be like, what the
Like,
fuck
where
was
was
I
that?
saying? Exactly.
People
But I
trying to
was
finish
so
your
dead
lines
on.
when they know what the rhymes
Right.
doing. Yeah,
But
that
even
shit
with
whack.
the Math Hoffa thing, when he battled Serious, like he wasn't like really constantly interrupting. He just said, "Woo." It was a whack. It was a
He
weak
wasn't
bar.
really.
He wasn't really, but he was just agitated. And then he tried to say he didn't eat anything. He was hungry. And then to your
Nigga, he
point,
said that.
He did.
Yeah.
But you know what? In his defense, though,
Wait,
I was
he
at
did.
that.
He diabetic.
I was at that
Nah.
event. A lot of URL events never used to have any food. No, real talk.
I mean,
Nah, man.
And
y'all ain't never be hungry
They
angry?
are main event. We there for
Hungry
mad
angry.
hours. The only thing you have access to is maybe some drinks, and that's it.
You
Standing on your
can't leave.
feet.
You can't go get something to eat though.
I mean,
You
I
a
guess when you
battler.
watching,
You gotta get
the. I'm saying as
Oh,
a spectator.
yeah.
You there for like
Mad
5
hours,
hours,
yeah,
6
yeah.
hours. Yo,
Gotta have some
URL
food.
events used to, first of all, they used to start wildly.
Stupid
Like
late.
all events don't start on time, but they used to start like literally like 3 hours after. So I'm saying in his defense, like we all was hungry. And like what
Niggas
the
gotta
Nah.
get some food vendors in them shits, man.
But
That's
now,
a bag that
no, that's
somebody
back then,
can
but
get.
now
Like,
they have it more. Like they'll have,
Okay.
like some. But
yeah, it's
at that
thousands
time,
of people at these shits.
Nah.
Somebody
imagine
go
being
get a
at an
bag.
event like 7 hours.
but
Nah, I'm leaving. I'm leaving and going to
I-
get something.
I
I'm
get
getting
it.
something delivered or something, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck
I'd
that.
be a
I'm not
different person when I'm
justifying it.
hungry.
I'm just saying that is a lot about to battle. You hungry, and this nigga I don't like. He's like, woo.
Might have been growling at the
I'm
moment.
hungry.
not even gonna hold
Someone
you
might
the
have been
way.
growling at the moment.
Even I guess he was just agitated at the whole shit because I ain't gonna hold, the way serious his aura. He was like a pimp. He had like the girls
Nah,
behind
serious.
him.
He was acting about
Yeah.
all that.
It was funny. It was
Serious
funny.
Jones
Serious.
had
he's one of-
swag with it.
He's
I
one of
feel
my
like
favorites.
He's
Word.
not liked by
Serious?
amongst his peers.
Yeah,
He came up real
I like
quick,
Serious though.
and he got a certain aura about him that a lot of niggas don't like.
I
And he can
also
rap.
feel like it's just a girl standpoint, but more attractive guys, I feel like they get hated on.
They
That's
just
true.
be acting like hoes sometimes.
He's one of the more
But they're
attractive guys.
often like more corny too.
They-
Like
and
cornballs.
maybe he's deemed corny by his comrades or his his peers.
I don't know. I mean, by appearance, I
Big
mean,
generalization.
It's not that. I mean, this is another topic. I mean, I'm not trying to go on that, but it's not
No.
like it's a lot of attractive battle rap guys like that. And I feel like he's one that comes off like he got his shit together. He's clean cut, not a bad looking guy. And
Are
then
y'all
he came.
comfortable? Are y'all comfortable?
They are comfortable.
I mean, shit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from a girl standpoint, when I'm watching that, I'm like, why is he getting so much hate? I mean, Math is not a bad looking guy either. I'm just saying, like, I think that also added to it. He had the girls on the stage.
Lord have mercy.
He came out like you said. I think that kind of agitated him. Like, who the fuck you think you are, yo?
Yeah.
Like,
But how you gonna be? Like,
And
niggas
the
be
reality is in the
Yeah.
industry, like looks sell for both men and women.
It
right?
does.
It's just it stands out more for women,
visual
but like
preachers.
yeah, exactly. Like
I mean, more so
to
for
your
women.
point.
like Blueface. Can't really rap, but girls love Blueface. He's
His
attractive.
name is
That
Blueface.
shit is funny. My nephew.
He
look
raps
like
off
Blueface.
beat.
Yo, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Q. I have a
Ooh,
point. I have a
fuck.
Oh
point.
no,
Go
never,
ahead, go
never
ahead.
mind, because it would have like put me in a position to support something that you were saying, and I don't want you to take it out of context.
What?
Never mind. Change my mind. Because I was gonna say to his point, like some might argue that like Kendrick Lamar, for instance, has been out like
That always comes out.
as long as the likes of like Drake and J. Cole and stuff like that.
Oh,
And I think some
those
folks
guys.
might argue that like Drake and J. Cole had more opportunity for like airtime and TV time.
No,
and
but
stuff like
Kendrick
that.
came out like maybe 5 or 6 years after.
Oh,
He didn't come
got
out with
it.
them. Drake and
And J. Cole
came out at
probably
the same
came
time.
at the same time.
But Kendrick came out like 5-6 years.
I don't know.
Later.
Because I feel like I learned about Kendrick Lamar like through Janae Aiko, who
Mhm.
was out
But that's like 2000 what?
2000. Oh no,
No.
Hell
that's a lie.
Section
Maybe about 2000.
80. Section 80
maybe about
was probably like
2007.
2012.
I could feel like
About
yeah.
2007.
So,
Seven?
Q, what's your point?
My point is, some might argue that when we speak about the topic of colorism, right, that light-skinnedness.
Oh, we not talking about this right now.
No, but I'm showing like there's always degrees of connectivity. Come on, man.
All right, I'm following.
But light-skinnedness might have been like, and I know that it's not a word, but I know it's something that had been admired more, like over at a period of time, right? Like just in pop
You
culture.
talking about as far as being attractive?
Yes.
Okay.
So some might argue that like Drake and J. Cole's like light-skinnedness appeal could have like bolstered their success in the industry for them to be as successful as they are compared to some of their peers.
But
And
see,
I'm not saying that they
the only
haven't
thing that I
matched
have an
success.
issue with that, I would say that in general, but Kendrick did not come. Kendrick came out like five or 6 years after
Definitely
them.
a few years after.
That's real.
He didn't come out with them.
That's real.
So and honestly, Kendrick is at the forefront. For him, you know, he's a brown. He's at the forefront. He's respected at the forefront.
Yeah.
He has received awards at the top level.
But I feel as though that only came about like after a period of time, right? I felt as though that only came about more recently. I didn't feel
you think
as though
how long you think he hasn't been out that long?
I was.
He
like, I
came
would
out
say
like
that Kendrick-
2013.
I would have
Something like
said
that.
like somewhere about 2007, 2008.
No, maybe Section 80. He got signed
Section
off
80, I
of
could say 2011.
Mad
maybe, something
Kid,
like that.
whatever, the Mad Kid joint.
Oh
Good
yeah,
Kid,
I
Mad
know. I
City?
don't know.
Nah,
No, I'm
that
saying
was-
that
Nah, he was already signed that because that came out on Aftermath. Good Kid, Mad City
Section
was on
80?
after. No, Good Kid, Mad City was
no,
on.
that's his debut.
Section 80 was in
Section
still
80 was
before.
the underground
Yeah.
sensation,
I
but
think
he
that was
wasn't
2011
known.
or
Then.
something.
Got it.
And I'm saying either way, that's still 5 or 6 years after.
And it's still not. It's not the best example, but it made me think about like the conversation that we were having about like Pam and Gina because I was watching Martin yesterday, and
You
like
go,
it was
girl.
very evident in the episode that I was watching. Notwithstanding, I digress.
I never felt that though, but
I still do, and you know what? And I will bring clips.
You
I tell
agreeing?
y'all, I'll
Are
bring
you
clips.
agreeing with
Nah, I
me?
could feel you. I could feel
You
you.
agreeing with me?
No,
He used to
because
roast
the point
Pam,
that you
you
made was
donkey
different.
looking.
Exactly.
Like it was never none of that
He
shit.
used
was
to
in
roast
there.
her, but he
But
used
they're
to
the
roast
same
her about
complexion.
things that were. But no, Pam and who?
Pam
Pam and
and
Martin.
Martin.
Yeah, but for men, it was never about like. It was very easy for like black men to also condemn like darker skinned women back then. I was even watching freaking Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they were on the same channel, and like where Will Smith was calling a dark skinned lady out on her big bonedness on one of the episodes. Right? It's probably not something that
Queen
he would do
Latifah
now,
episode?
but.
But she was light skinned.
No.
He called out on her big boneness too. So.
But that's when he became a little bit more aware, and I feel like that's when he, like, you started to see like a heightened level of awareness in like the work that Will Smith did, and I think you like just saw continued progress with him. Martin was just mad ignorant, and like it was always buckshot jokes with Pam,
Beady
right?
beat.
Which perpetuates the conversation around like nappiness, right? Pam was always never as good as Gina, even though they worked in the same industry. So she always like Gina always got a promotion, and then that made it okay for Pam to step it up. Like if you pay attention to the seasons,
Maybe,
you'll,
of course.
like there are
I've
themes that I
watched
feel as
every-
though that have impacted. I know, but I know we also haven't looked from that angle because we were looking
I
from a point
didn't
of
look
humor
from that angle.
before.
Well,
But
you-
it's something
go
that
ahead.
it's something that I've definitely noticed because in college, that's the college. One of my majors was African American studies, and I did a paper on
Mine too.
colorism. So like, and like I picked apart one of Chris Brown's music videos then, but then like started looking at media critically, like the shit that I used to watch to see signs where like those things were perpetuated. And I remember like Martin, like seeing connotations of that being of colorism being perpetuated. So like it's not far-fetched like with the Gina Pam comparison, and I feel like I can pull some clips. And
You're not the only
support it.
person that I've
Yeah.
heard say that. She's
I
not-
mean-
it's not
I
the
mean-
first time I heard that.
Gina got ranked on too about her forehead and stuff
True.
like that.
Yeah, I'm
She
not
got her
saying that
head
she
stuck in
didn't.
the
Yeah,
head, boy.
It doesn't mean that she doesn't also
Yeah.
experience like shit in the world, or her
Mm-hmm.
character didn't, right? I'm just saying that like when you
You
assess
talking
the
about the
rank of shit,
comparison.
yeah, like it's just historically, like darker skinned women like weren't. I don't know.
I don't know.
There were just misrepresentations.
Thinking about it now and looking at the video, I mean, I know we're getting sidetracked. We'll get back to it, but like, I don't think it was intentional because I also thought about maybe they both were on that show because they were so close because they worked together in Little Shop of Horrors. They were together in different types of stuff. And they both sing. And Martin,
Pam and Gina was
yeah,
together
Pam and
in
Gina,
Little Shop of
yeah,
Horrors?
they were the two girls singing in that
And
thing,
they
yeah.
and they worked on
They like good.
many
They're like
projects
best
together.
friends. Yeah. So
They worked
I
on many
don't know.
projects together. No, I don't. Don't
No, I
get me
feel what
wrong.
you're saying. I
I
feel what you're
get that.
saying.
But like, what's to say? Like, why couldn't Pam be Gina and Gina be Pam? And you know what I meant.
yeah, I know what
Y'all
you
know
mean.
what I mean.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know-
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it just leaves a lot of room for questions.
I'm just thinking.
And
of
but
the
and
episode- all
Martin,
the
but Martin's
snaps now.
also not the only show that has done that, in my opinion.
Living Single. Maxine Shaw.
Nah, Max was a
Think
Max
about it.
was a beast.
Think about
Y'all
it.
stop.
Think
don't,
about it.
don't talk
Think
about
about
Max.
it.
How?
Because, for example, everybody had like their stint where they had like a love interest or multiple love interests.
She did. It
So
was
no,
Kyle.
No. It was just her with Kyle,
Mhm.
but then it was everybody else. There, in my opinion, from what I've seen, it was just a bit
Her
more.
character was was
in-depth.
Maverick though. She used to call herself Max the Maverick.
Of course.
And so she it was a character
Aggressive.
I think that was intentional with her character. And I think it was a show with 4 black women that showed 4 different representations of black women
Yeah.
in positive and both negative ways in all their characters, as opposed to a show that continued to perpetuate.
I don't know anything negative that was placed on.
I mean,
Maxine's
it's
character.
not more or less negative. I'm just
Actually,
making.
she's the person I wanted to be.
I'm making
Between
a.
her and
I mean,
that supported
I'm
her.
just
Wanted to-
going to your point as far as colorism and representation on TV shows, and I felt like with her, she was. Although I loved her character, I'm just saying like maybe. I mean, in some instances, it was like she was like on the side, and everybody else was like.
On the side?
I mean, and like she was like the least
If I can
like sought after.
can I say something to that?
Go ahead.
It's interesting that that is your perception of that, because that would be under the assumption that like her character would have needed to be defined by being in a relationship. And I feel like when you speak about being to the side, it was about like
That's what the
representation
show.
of her in a relationship. And so I guess I'm saying the reason why I feel like it differs for that show in particular is because it just showed like it was a show that showed representation of 4 women of color. You know what I mean? It wasn't like all of them were like single and asexual women.
I mean, there was even an episode where, because I felt like she came off, and I think it was based upon the show and how they portrayed her. She came off a bit like I don't want to say manly, but just
Mad aggressive and emasculate.
and then there was a certain episode. I used to watch both of these shows with my dad. Like one episode where there was like her college roommate was in love with her.
Yep.
And like she
And-
didn't know she was getting married, and it
Mhm.
was just kind of like that's when you kind of was hit with that like, oh snap, like yeah, she is kind of like aggressive and a little manly, even with how she would dress.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
But I feel like
she
someone could have put
definitely
that
was
play-
wearing them Steve Harvey
But you
suits.
think
But the
you're
irony
connecting
there-
that to the dark skin?
I'm just connecting to the way they kind of depicted her on that show, and I just think it was.
No, but we're talking about colorism, though.
yeah, and and that's what I'm saying. Like she was, you know,
You're
the
saying
way they
that
portrayed
the
her.
dark skinned girl was
Yeah,
aggressive and manly.
yeah, and I felt like they could have gave her a bit more. I don't know.
That's
love on the
an
show.
interesting perspective. I never looked at her.
They
character
never
that
gave
way.
her to me. They never gave her that much love the way they gave Sinclair or.
I think they made her
To-
super
Tootie.
intelligent though.
Yeah.
And for me, like that was a quality that I aspired to. You
That
know what
was
I mean?
dope.
And so I didn't look at it. I didn't look at it negatively. I think
She was a
now's
lawyer,
the only time
right?
that I question
Yeah.
it. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm like they could have did more.
I think it was a valid depiction. Like when you're so maybe career driven,
Mhm.
you don't really have the extra time. I think it was a real accurate. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like I think that was done purposely. Maybe not so because of the colorism thing, but like, look, when you're this top big crazy lawyer, you're probably not gonna be going out on dates.
Because she
every night
was
'cause you
more
ain't
like
got
a
fucking-
guy. Like, I don't got time for
And I was
that.
about to say
Yeah.
she was a
She's like, I'm
dater.
fucking and I'm out.
She was dating all the time. She just did. She just was
No,
a person who
she
didn't
was
give a
getting,
fuck.
She was
Yeah,
getting buzzed.
exactly.
I mean, I get that because the show's titled "Living Single," but I was just saying like
Like, what was
maybe.
Sinclair's profession? I can't really.
Sinclair
remember.
worked for
some fashion thing, right?
Sinclair.
Then
No,
she
Sinclair
worked
worked
with
for
Khadijah.
Khadijah.
She worked
Yeah,
for
she was
Yeah.
like
And
an
then she
assistant,
acted.
so she had
And
time
then
to
she
be
had
able
the
to, like,
acting
you know.
Yeah,
interest.
I don't know.
She was
I mean, I
on
just
that
felt
ass.
like they could have, you know.
I
give her
never
character
looked at
more.
it that way, and I think I didn't look at it that way because it was a show that
Yeah.
was. It completely represented the Black experience in a multifaceted way. That is an interesting an interesting way of looking at it. However, I feel as though if I were to like ever lead an argument with that, it would sound like I'm like crying wolf with the argument around like perpetuating stereotypes in film.
Yeah.
Because I actually feel as though they were intentional about like showing unique representations of Black women because, and another way I look at it, right? Queen Latifah, her sexuality has always been in question for people for whatever reason, and it would have been easy to make her that person, but her being like one of the, I don't completely understand what role she played. I don't think she was a producer at that time, but I know she had heavy influence in that show.
Yeah.
But it would have been easy to make her that person, and they didn't. You know what I mean? So, and I felt like that was a unique way of illustrating. I don't know. I also felt like that was strategy and unique too. You know?
I mean, it was a dope show. I mean, I love watching the show. It was just, and my adult self watching it now, I can watch it more critically and make those different parallels as to my teenage self. Like, oh, you know, Maxine Shaw and Kyle. He was funny to me. Kyle was funny.
Kyle Barker.
Bro, y'all seen them new videos of Kyle mad drunk with the selfie cam shit? I posted that shit. Shit is mad funny. Look it up.
Nah.
Shit is too funny. He's on something.
Wait, is he?
high as shit.
Is it a show? Is he acting?
Oh
or
no.
This
The
is
last show he was
This
on,
is
he was on a
real.
show.
This
I
is
feel like he was
like-
on Black Lightning or
He
something.
was.
Like that
He was the dad.
Yeah.
He was the dude.
Tobias's dad.
And also, shout out to whatchamacallit, what's his name? He was Khadijah's love interest.
Oh
He's
yeah,
Black
because
Lightning.
he's Black Lightning.
Yeah, he's Black Lightning.
Scooter.
Scooter.
Scooter is Black Lightning.
Scooter's Black
Yeah,
Lightning.
That's Black Lightning. That's what made me. That's what I was like. Oh, that's Scooter. Gotta watch
did
it.
not
And then the girl from
fucking
Daddy's Little
realize.
Girls.
Yeah, he does a great
But
job.
who was
Shit, Scooter.
who was? You said Kyle was.
He was the father of
He was the father.
antagonist.
Tobias.
Of the antagonist on the show.
Kyle Scooter.
The
Tobias is which one? Oh, the
Tobias is
albino.
the antagonist of the albino guy.
Yeah, he
He's
was
his father.
He was
Yeah,
like
he
his.
killed him, I think.
Yeah,
Already.
They showed him. I don't remember him.
First season.
first season. Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to Scooter.
And Max is the fucking therapist on the show now.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, yo, you help your friends out, man.
Yeah.
That's how
That's how
it's
supposed
everybody
to
else
be.
in
But
Hollywood
black people would do
does.
that
But
more.
but
Yeah.
then like when you think about how small the industry is, right? Salim Akil is the one who is the executive producer and writer of the show. His wife is Marab Akil. She's the one who executive produced like Girlfriends and stuff
Everything.
like that. But she also was a writer on Martin with Gina and Pam. So
Yeah.
like it's so funny because they're all interconnected as well. So
Yeah.
like I like to see that like them cultivating and sharing, I guess,
Yeah.
across roles, and you see that more prevalently. And
So-
people have to give Tyler Perry a little bit of credit for that, even though like
Credit for what?
for like I think he was definitely a driver behind supporting black work
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
industry, even if it was with shit
He
media.
definitely provided a lot
He
of
provided
black
with that,
jobs
yeah.
for
Mhm.
actors and new faces.
So to bring it back to Raine's thoughts on Sirius Jones being attractive and how you know how does that into battle rap, how does that play a
I
role?
mean, I don't know. I think we kind of like,
That's
I was
some
just
real
saying
hoe
that.
shit. You
It led
jealous
to
of
him
a
having
nigga.
more haters.
You jealous of a nigga because he look good. You a bitch. Anybody listening to this shit right
Damn,
now?
that was a
looking-
hard. You a
Nah,
bitch.
for real, son. Like,
Damn.
for real. If you really looking
Too
at a
short?
nigga like, damn, that nigga look good. Like, you a fucking bitch, son. Like, pull your fucking
I mean,
skirt
that's what I was
down.
saying.
I
That's
won't
only
ask-
a girl standpoint. I was just saying.
I won't ask McCrae. I won't ask McCrae why he hates Drake, nor Carnegie Kid why he hates Michael B. Jordan.
Wow.
Nah, people say I look like him.
he don't
so
hate him.
fuck that. Nah, I
Oh.
fuck Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, I don't fuck with Michael B. Jordan.
I've heard him
Don't
say
say
that
I look
before,
like
but
nobody.
he's never given a valid reason why.
Nah,
Shots fired!
I didn't give a whole breakdown of why I don't like him. Y'all made me do the shit like at the
Oh yeah,
beginning
no,
of the
you're
show
right,
before.
you're right, you're
Don't
right,
try
you're
to-
right. I guess
didn't make
because
you
I
do
hadn't
anything, brother.
Yeah, yo,
I
don't
didn't make you
front.
do anything. It's,
So one of
it's
y'all-
in the tape. It's
One
in
of
the
y'all
tape.
put it. One of y'all
I
put
didn't
it
make
up.
you do
Well, Why
anything.
you don't? Well, one of y'all did it. I
So you don't think he cute? Shout out to Johnny Floss.
you know, audio lives forever. Yeah, clean that up because somebody
Shout out
could
to Johnny
slice that
Floss.
up and cut, and you could look real bad.
I'll
bro.
have the original tape.
What I'm saying is somebody could put out a.
I have the original tape.
All right.
Listen.
Yeah, no, but like more attractive people are always said to
Yeah.
be like. It's just clear that they're more successful. Like, there's no reason why people shouldn't know about like. I'm not even gonna get into this. It doesn't make sense, but I think it's clear that over the years that people like the media has pushed people who they felt have been more attractive.
I mean,
or appeal to more European
entertainment-
ideals.
In entertainment, it's kind of like, we're trying to sell
that
things
makes
that
sense,
appeal to the senses, visually, acoustically. So that kind of makes sense. Like,
But it was like forced thinking. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
most of the world don't look like
I feel you, but like
what
I played
was
sports my
depicted
whole
on
life, but
television.
like I wasn't fucking jealous of the fucking center. Like this motherfucker 6'5" and I'm on like fuck yo, it is what it is. Like all right, that's you play big, I play small. Like whatever, this is what we do. Let's play. Like
I think
fuck it, you played the hand, you was dope.
I think there's different factors though. I don't think just looks play a role into it because it's just
Right.
maybe it's about the positioning, your backing, things like that. Like you know,
It's
what
a
I'm
bunch
saying?
of
But
factors.
Yeah, it's a
looks
different factors.
looks support the type of like support that you get from the people around you. What's like a great movie that represented that was freaking Color Purple.
That's true too. But I mean, to
You
your
know what I
point,
mean?
to your point, we're
When
saying
like it was
looks.
about when like it was really about looks. Like I think people forget that like those foundations are what cultivated our society, right?
Yeah.
And like not because like laws changed mean that the way like people's way of thinking changed. People's way of thinking didn't change. It just became sugar coated, and like it just became like permeated throughout the culture, so you didn't recognize that you were judging people or advancing people because they were more like aesthetically or visually appealing to you.
Yeah.
So like it's just I don't know. I don't know what argument I'm making. I'm not really making an argument. I'm just saying it's mad evident.
I can understand maybe a woman feeling like that because so much of
Me, nigga.
That's what Q's saying right now.
kind of do shit like that. But yeah, if you a man, you feel like that, you're a bitch, son.
I feel you. I mean, I don't know, because then when you say looks, I mean, there's a lot of people
No, I was just saying in
who
general.
look like they've
I
been
feel
slapped
like-
with the ugly stick and they winning.
Yeah.
Shit, hope.
It's not, and it's
don't
not
wanna say-
primarily
My
based
bad,
off of
Hope.
looks, right? For some, it's height,
They
right?
gonna
For
get
men,
that. They
it was
gonna
height.
put that on the thing.
At once upon a time, like for men, it was height. Once upon a time,
It's a bunch of things. But
Yeah.
it's really on you to persevere
yeah, pretty much.
and push through.
Yeah, you could be ugly and
But
succeed.
however, the like the experience or what it requires for you to like push through could be more challenging if you're like
Yeah.
uglier by definition of society. Is what I'm saying. Like easier said than done. But you don't
I
really
just
know
think
unless
that
you're the ugliest
everybody
person in the
still
world.
has things that you have to go through
Mm-hmm.
to
And it's
get.
all about
Even I think that's also kind of like a misconception about attractive people. Like they don't have to like go through, because like it's a thing called it's pretty girl syndrome,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? So they go through shit that maybe a girl who's not as attractive goes through.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And because you have these stigmas placed on you, like because you look like that, you automatically do this, that, and
Yeah.
the third. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think everybody just has their shit. And also it's things that are you willing to succumb to certain things? So now that you're like placed or you're looked at as this attractive person,
Mm-hmm.
there are things that come along with that.
Mhm. Like
You know what I mean?
responsibility.
Not only responsibility, I'm saying the things that people put on you, especially as if you're a woman dealing with that,
Mhm.
then there are things that you still have to kind of like succumb to certain things.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then a lot of times, I feel like from my own experience, when I look outside, I'm like, oh, a lot of times men will carry or make a woman who is seemingly, I guess, attractive or not even just whatever, but they make them to like they propel their careers.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, they're being passed around. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So you're like, okay,
Or-
like, she's over there, she's seemingly popping, but is she really popping? Because she has
Mhm.
no voice
Mhm.
and she been passed around by whoever.
Mhm.
But in the public eye,
She's winning.
she's winning,
Even
but
though
she's
she's
not
probably dealing with like
well, all that bullshit.
Mhm.
She's
That's
not
real.
really winning. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
real.
it's like whatever. Everyone has to like jump these hurdles.
No, I think that's real, and it's shit. That's real. I think I started to try and make this point last week, and I didn't know how to articulate it, and this is the only time I'm thinking about it again since then. I think that's very true. I think as a society, however, sometimes we call upon those who seemingly have it easier to make it better for the rest of us, if that makes any sense. And this is when I started to make this argument about like how you could find like the oldest white person to justify like the bit of slavery for the betterment of society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they can say like how today someone might stand in front of you and say like, yeah, slavery had its bad, but like the country is better because of it, and like people just have to push through, right? If someone were to say that shit to me, I'd be irritated. And so I say that to say, yes, that is true, but there's still like a responsibility that that one who is aware and or have it easier, like that they hold in order to kind of shed light on the experiences of.
But that's what I was saying about China Mac too. Like, where to me it didn't apply because he doesn't. I feel like everything is twofold. Like everything, it's a. You can't just say. I'm saying this twofold is the word I'm going to use. Like everything is like
has two sides to it.
Two sides. So yeah, he has been accepted. This is why I was saying where it's different. He does not understand his responsibility now as someone who's not black being accepted in this culture. So you have a responsibility to represent this culture. So people who look like you, who are actually rocking with this culture because of you, they need to know how to respect this culture as well. And that is your responsibility. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
He doesn't realize that. No one's saying that to him. Like, bro, you got all these Asian kids rocking with you off this, but they're disrespecting black people. How are you allowing people to disrespect people that have accepted you? That's not how it works.
Influence the culture that you're.
Yes, it's twofold.
No, I 100% get that. And in the same spirit, I feel as though someone might make the same argument for a person who is attractive, who is doing well in society. To like.
Oh yeah, so you can't be passive.
Yeah.
You can't be like you can't. Not say anything.
Yeah.
Like.
So, and not just about like how it impacts you, but maybe the darker skinned or the less attractive person who works alongside you. You know what I mean?
use Tracy Ellis as an example. I feel like
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Yeah, I feel like she definitely is someone that may have those things placed on her, but she definitely reps the culture.
Oh, she sure does.
She's fighting for not only women, darker skinned women. So that's where it's twofold.
Yeah.
So yeah, she may have those things like those privileges or whatever, but she still represents. She still has a voice. She still speaks on people who may not have those privileges.
Yeah.
It's always twofold. You know what I mean? Like it's just two sides. But I just think that we all have hurdles that we have to jump through, regardless of how pretty or not pretty you are, attractive or not attractive you are. I just think that's also like people just think that because. People just think that, oh, you look like that, so you don't have this issue. No, they have issues. The same
Everybody
issues.
got issues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think people recognize that everybody has issues. I think people...
But you don't empathize with those who you think are doing better or because of how they look.
I disagree. I don't think everybody realizes that people have issues.
They
really?
don't.
I don't think so.
The same way
think so?
society doesn't. They look at celebrities like they have the life. And
Yeah.
why would
I
you
think,
do this?
but I think
Because
it's super uneducated or ignorant if folks don't understand that. So, and I guess because that ain't me, I can't identify with folks not understanding.
But I think that's
that other
the
people get
general consensus. Like people think like Raine said, like celebrities don't go through
the
shit.
first thing they'll say is, "Why is he have an issue? He has all this money.
Why are they battling depression?
Because they're human.
Exactly.
And certain humans have.
Yeah.
But then does it
Here
make
he
us?
goes.
Does
Money
it make us?
doesn't-
Does it make us? Let me ask you a question
Go
then.
ahead.
I watched Amanda Seal's comedy special
I
on
gotta
HBO.
watch it.
I thought it was pretty good.
Everyone
Damn,
says
so I
that.
can't spoil it, right?
Don't
Fine.
spoil it.
Okay, so
Well, you can talk about it.
SUNY
Well,
Purchase
stand
alum.
It's only a comedy show.
there was a snippet where she was speaking about like the types of people that you experience in the office and having to deal with like the behaviors of like some white women in her office or in her experiences. And like her argument was like, oh, you have to like this, like the folks that she's encountered are not accustomed to receiving criticism. So anytime like there has to be a tough exchange, like the girls, like there's somebody crying or whatever the case is, like chalk it the fuck up, right? And like I agree to some degree. Like I've had experiences in like my professional career,
But even
where
with
it's just
women
like
of
chalk it the fuck
color
up.
too.
Yeah, with what.
They'll do some real whack shit, and then you're like, then you check them, and now you're crying. Like,
Well,
what
you know
crying
what?
for?
No, you know what? It's so much easier
Facts.
for me to empathize with
You're
women
right.
of color. It's so much easier but I also
I'm
think
just
I have
saying
a greater
women
willingness.
do this thing regardless of color.
Definitely.
You have a greater what?
Ain't nothing crazy about that.
Did you just hurt your soul?
I'm more inclined to like hear the experiences of women of color. Like if a woman,
Depending on the situation. What are we talking about? I thought you were talking about.
no, just in
I thought you were
general.
talking about. I thought you were talking about coworkers.
I am speaking
Yeah.
about coworkers, but in my coworker in my setting with
Mm-hmm.
like in my experiences, I've been more inclined to like
Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
Why?
notwithstanding.
Oh, because
Notwithstanding, I'm talking about. I've been working for years. Okay, I graduated college in
Listen, you
2007.
paused and you knew where you were going.
Okay.
I saved you.
I didn't need to be. I didn't need to be saved. I'm always very intentional about the words that I use. Thank you. Essentially, what I was saying is that
Nigga. You're welcome.
Where is that from?
That's from his stand-up Kevin Hart.
Oh, Kevin Hart. Okay.
Oh dear. I was just saying. So, like, I empathize when she said that shit, right? But the reality is, like, I also have been in a circumstance where I had to challenge myself and recognize that my way of handling things, like, sometimes I can be very abrupt. It's just like, matter of fact, saw the shit in the moment. Like, no one has time for your feelings. Everyone might not be accustomed to that way of doing things. So, you can't just chalk it up to, like, everybody deals with shit, so get over it. Because even though, like, at surface, it feels as though you're being, like, mad soft by, like, in responding to me that way. If it is not something that's customary for you, that is a hurdle for you to overcome.
I can dig that.
Like, in your world and your experiences. I just don't always have the time to empathize with that. So I say that to say, like, yes, there are always two sides to each story, but, like, we always don't always want to hear two sides, too. Especially when it comes to, like, for me, like, the time where I definitely don't want to hear two sides is, like, I don't have the patience for it with white people. I just don't.
Why?
Well, why?
Because my job is to elevate those, like, colors of community. And I don't have time to be, like, making nobody else's feelings feel better.
Conversation without, hearing an opposing view.
Oh no, and I'm willing to have a valid conversation. It's just that if I'm in a situation where, like, there's no progress,
not really.
Like, I give you 2-3 times.
I can't agree with that because you just said, like, you wouldn't want to hear it, so you wouldn't want to have a conversation.
No, and this is me saying it, assuming that people know my personality. I'm a person who tries, and I try many times before I give up. But when I give up, I'm done.
Right.
So, like, and this is because I have the knowledge, right? I have an awareness that we lived different lives. So I bring empathy from that place. I might get pissed off the first time, like, because naturally as a human I'm gonna react because I react too, right?
What do you mean by we grew up? Because I have a point I want to make, but I want you to finish your point.
When you say, what do you want?
When you said because we grew up different, you said we grew up different.
We had different upbringing, so I cannot assume that the way that I handle you or the way that I speak with you is going to be well received. I have to leave room for you sharing that, like, oh, like, I didn't receive that because of X, and be willing to, like, to provide a counter and to do something differently in order to support or cultivate or move from that space. But there's so many times I can do that. Is what I'm saying.
And as far as white people, you're saying?
Yes. Excuse me. That is a very general statement.
Yes.
I am more inclined, and so what I should say is that I'm more inclined to try harder with people of color. That is what I should say. Because, like, I give everyone a fair chance, but you'll see me go hard and try extra hard for a person of color.
Get a round of applause for that. Good job.
Oh, yeah.
See, I stopped. I was about to go to Macho Man. No, the reason why I wanted to make that point because I didn't know where you were going with it, and I was going to interpret it as, like, white people can't empathize with black people.
Oh, no,
but
that's not what I mean.
No, okay, that's what I thought. That's what
I don't mean that nor feel that.
Okay.
I feel as though anyone has the capacity, has the ability to do so, is whether or not you have the willingness and capacity to do so.
Okay.
And I am less patient to determine whether or not a white person, has the willingness or capacity, because I ain't got time to assuage your feelings because I got black people's lives to advance.
Okay. I mean,
your feelings ain't on the agenda.
I feel you.
Damn.
It's okay. It just sounds more fucked up when you say it out loud.
I know.
So. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Play something nice.
All right, so I mean,
but I'm for real nice, y'all. I mean, come on, man. If you know me, you know that it doesn't come from a horrible space, and most people feel that way. I just said it.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's how.
I think everybody's a little bit more inclined to, lean towards what looks like them.
No, because sometimes people of color give people of color a harder time because they have higher expectations, and this is when they can't step out of their their ways of thinking, and so they impose higher expectations on.
I feel you.
People who look like them.
I mean,
and then it's easy for the narrative to be, oh, other black people don't want to see other black people win.
That's true. Crabs in a barrel.
No, but that's not. It's never that easy. There's very few times where you're gonna walk in the street and encounter a black person who's like, I don't want these other Negroes to win.
That's true. I wholeheartedly believe that. We are more hard on ourselves. We are more critical of each other than you say white people.
No, absolutely.
They are
That
more
shit
inclined to
exists.
support us than
Y'all
our
need
own
to,
kind.
You
Nah,
need to
I
be
didn't say
around.
that.
Well,
No,
what
I'm telling you.
My response
alright.
to that is that you need to
Sounds
find
good.
better people to be around. Because in my experiences with the communities that I've been around a lot of supportive people. And if they have failed in support, it's not because of a willingness to. It's because of an inability to.
I'm telling you, it may be your circle, which is cool. I get that, but I mean, generally speaking, like our own, we dropped the ball in that regard.
Subconsciously, yeah.
We
I
dropped the
think
ball
that,
in that
yeah.
regard. I mean, of course,
do.
within our circle, of course within our circle, our community, we're
What
gonna
you
have
mean
people.
by
I'm
drop
saying
the
this.
ball?
We do. I feel like, honestly, you know, a lot. I mean, I don't know if you're saying the same thing, but I felt
think
like
we
it's a
are.
while. Like a lot of people, black people, they like. I've seen comments with this on even on social media where they don't even subscribe to nepotism. Like, why don't you subscribe to nepotism?
Shit, I do.
So do I. Because and
I
they
mean,
do too.
I believe in the spirit of nepotism where it counts.
Where it counts. I mean, yeah, I'm just
Of
saying,
course.
like, even that concept, like, yeah, why would you bust your ass for 20 years to become, you know, head of whatever said place and not hire black people just because?
And if
Like,
I can,
why wouldn't you do that?
If I can share, I only feel as though it is in more recent years that black people have felt empowered at the table to like bring on other folk. Like I truly feel as though we feel as though we've always had the ability to like pull folks up on the arc. Like we haven't.
And we just now got foot in our damn selves. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel
I
as
got
though
my
it's
first
always been a
real
balance.
job through a black woman that, you know, she knew me from my neighborhood, and you know, I just always respected the fact that when she got to a position of power, like fresh out of college, she just made sure I got the job. And I feel like more black people need to do that, but a lot of black people do not subscribe to that thought.
But if
one,
I can
teach one.
share, so you just shared that, right? And I'll let you know. One of my first legitimate jobs was at McDonald's.
Shout out to Mickey.
I think I
D's.
started working there at 14, and it was only possible because I was in high school. But and I was made a manager by 15, and it was a black woman who did that.
Shit,
Right?
lit.
So like, but what I'm saying is that like you just identified a black woman who like put you on. I've been able to identify one, but she's not even the only person. Like I can list.
But I can also
Toby Jenkins,
I can
Joyce
also
Johnson.
Look at, you know, I've also had other experiences where I'm just saying, like, to me, they like white people, like it could be a stereotype, but in positions of power, they're hiring people that don't even know what the fuck they're doing just because it's their homeboy, their brother,
Because they-
son.
Look out for you.
And I'm
Because they
saying
speak
we
the
don't
same
subscribe
language.
to that.
Can I give you a different perspective? It's because we don't speak the same language. And hear me out, right? It's easier for white people to hire people that look like them. And if any place you go, look at the leadership team and look at the people that represent them, right? People are inclined to hire people who speak the same language as them.
Absolutely.
And when and historically, as black people have gotten into companies, right, we have always had to learn how to speak a language, and I felt as though there's been like a constant juggling between like learning the language, trying to maintain and sustain yourself in the organization while trying to extend but not understanding like how to give yourself proper limitations over it. And then like, and I think we also forget that oftentimes there's this this mentality, like this defensive mentality where it's not, I don't think it comes from a place of like, I don't want this person to win. It's like this self-preservation mentality that comes when you're trying to juggle all of these things and not know how to do them successfully. So then you end up only supporting yourself. I find it hard to believe that there's like a lot of people out there who are intentionally approaching this thing as like, I need to be the only one here. I think what we don't recognize is that like there is a constant struggle and maze and different locks to open to figure out how to deal with white people's passive aggressiveness, how to speak to the language, how to learn how to control your motherfucking reactions like to people's passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, that I'm just saying on the surface, yeah, that's stuff that you're right to a degree, but still, it's just the concept is not accepted by us as a whole.
I don't, and I hear that, and I don't. It's not that I disagree with that. I'm just saying that it's not accepted. Like if it's that it's not accepted, it would be because we have not had the capacity to understand how to like.
I mean,
do
for whatever
so.
reason, but it's not. It doesn't. You don't need a capacity to understand that I should hire people. I'm not saying just hire anybody just because they're black, but I'm saying that to me, that's what they do. Like they just pass it on. Like Case in point, even Donald Trump.
Mhm.
Donald Trump literally put all his homeboys in office.
Yes, but Raine, but had Barack Obama like taken the same?
I know.
You know what I mean?
I'm not comparing presidents. I'm just saying the concept that even that a black person is like, they in that position of power. They're like, they care about how they look.
It is, but it is the concept that I'm comparing, right? Donald Trump did do that, and he is able to do that, and people are like, and he gets criticism for many different things,
though.
and he was bred that way. But
you know who was also bred that way? Dame Dash, right? So he's black, right? And I'm saying that it's a mindset that we don't instill that in our children, and so I feel like people can say whatever they want to say about Dame Dash, right? But at the end of the day, one thing I related to with him, especially in his first interview on Breakfast Club, where him and Envy were going back and forth, he was kind of like being extreme, but the mindset is what I feel like Envy wasn't getting. A lot of people don't get. If you've never really had a job, right? Even as him selling drugs or whatever, he never really had a job, like ever. Like that's such an empowering thing to never really have a job, never really have to answer to anybody, and you're literally bred to be self-made. And I feel like this is I'm making a general statement, but I feel like wealthy or educated, because it's different. White people, that's the stereotype on them that they're bred with a certain mindset, and I'm saying that mindset, him being a black man, he was bred that way. If we were more all bred that way from, I wish that I was like taught that. I learned everything on my own. But if you're bred like that from a child, so my whole point is that he had this mindset.
Point though, Raine.
But he had this mindset that they couldn't relate to because he's never had a job. So if you I'm saying he gave jobs though. So I don't think people realize the kind of mindset that is why he was saying that you work for someone. Like black people will laugh at someone creating their own. They even like right now they're poking fun at him. He has totally everything is self-contained. It's not on the big scale. Right, but he has his own Netflix.
Their self-sustenance.
Right, he has his own Netflix, Dash Studios. He's really what you call, he's a tycoon. Like he's beyond mogul status, right? Own liquor, own gas, everything. And people are mocking that. And it's just like,
because they
don't understand it.
And also,
I'm saying, but also with that, he's being the change that he wants to see because all of his children are self-contained as well.
And so can I share something with you? Like, one of the things, black people are some of the most like magnificent people that I've met, just in terms of like, I had a professor, Major Coleman, who would always define meritocracy in a very interesting way, and he spoke about like black people like epitomizing meritocracy just because of the place where you had to start and where it is that you generally end up, right? And you said something that was key about like being reared to have a certain mindset, right? And I think some of the things that we take for granted as a community of people now is for how long we've had the ability to play with like concepts and education and for our family members to know the things that they do know, right? I remember like I used to be annoyed that like I didn't understand like the principles of saving and things of that nature. You know what I mean? But it's not because like people in my family didn't want me to have it. It's because they didn't know. Yeah. And they didn't know to teach me.
I know,
right?
But I say that to say, crisis of us.
Yes,
right.
But I say that to say it doesn't stem from this place of like born bred like discontentment, or like discontentment is not the word, but like not wanting other people to achieve. It happens to be a matter of like not knowing any better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like, all right, I had another experience, right?
And if educational systems in black communities have been shit all along, right? Where we're only now challenging. If I'm in a
position of power, it should be a no-brainer for me. If you bring someone to me to get a job, and you're fresh out of school, and I'm like, okay, maybe this person doesn't have, but you have a degree. I'm gonna give you a shot. You know, and I'm gonna let you know, dude, don't fuck this up, you know. But if you fuck it up, you fuck it up. I'm saying that we don't even do that enough.
I don't know. I feel like I've encountered people over and over again where I've had the opportunity for that to happen. It was about me asking, you know what I mean? And I feel like what happens is a lot of kids don't ask. A lot of kids don't
No,
know how to
I've
ask
had both
nowadays.
experiences where also fresh out, my homegirl brought me to a guy who had position of power at her job at the time, and he didn't just give me. I'm fresh out with the CIS degree.
Oh, see, I be going to black women.
Right,
I
but
be
I'm
having time
saying
for
she was my homegirl, but he had the hiring power.
No,
a black man.
I know,
though.
but that's what I'm saying. That's why I like. I'm
See,
like, I be
saying?
going to black women because if you
on them.
understand
I'm
the
just saying, but
struggle.
he had the hiring power. I'm fresh out, CIS
what I'm
degree.
saying?
You could just hire me at entry level just because all positions of any job, it's all about training, yo. So I have clearly the basis. I have a CIS degree. Why is this? We had a meeting. I answered a couple of questions. Even if I didn't have the skill set that you wanted, why not hire for what? There's that's like a no-brainer. And I'm bringing up Dame Dash also because what the stigma that the thing that was attached to him outside of people talking shit is that everyone said that he made sure everyone ate around him. You know what I'm saying? He got them all to a bag.
I'm going to use myself as a quick example.
And they was pimping out. That's why it's so, like, I'm going on different tangents. When Funk Flex brings that up,
Raine,
it's like, I know. But when he tries to get at him, it's like, yo, shut the fuck up, Flex. Because that's where even though Flex actually he has other businesses and stuff, only thing I don't respect about Dame Dash is when he goes so extreme as to say that you're just a worker. Because Flex is clearly more than just a worker, right? And where we differ, because see, again, I can respect his mindset. He's never had a job, right? Now, for me personally, I respect anyone who works in their passion. So Funk Flex is a DJ who has worked as a DJ from a teenager. That's commendable. And you've branched off. He does too many different things to just be deemed a worker. The same thing with Envy. But the thing he was trying to make with Envy is that, which is true, he might can like get a little pass, but you can't bring your son in here and just get your son a job. Like he might can get him some kind of like a little something, but you just can't, that's the difference in being totally self-contained and running your shit, yo.
Yeah.
And that's crazy if I put in work at, if I'm I'm beyond established at a radio station and I just can't bring my child in and get a job. Why not? Because I don't own it. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I'm saying. Where
But
we
I get
as
that.
a people, I don't feel like we do to a degree, but we don't. It's not like it's not an ingrained
but it's
concept.
because I think it's because we're not all yet in a position to like completely own. Right, because like because the people who are leaders, who are leaders, they have someone to be accountable to. So I'm going to use myself as an example. Right, when I first started working at the current network that I work at, I started off as a program manager, and I came from like I was doing database work at an actuarial firm. Prior to that, it was a complete like career shift or whatever. That wasn't a career, but
You're an actuary?
No, I just worked for.
I'm about to say,
I just worked for
my homegirl,
a team of actuaries.
That's like you're brainiacs.
No, I just worked for a team of actuaries. But I switched over and I was hired by this there were two women who were in my interview, a black woman and a white woman, both of which I still know, right? But I have a closer relationship now with the white woman. Lord, I hope she's not listening to this. I remember like when being hired by that black woman, looking up to her, but she was very difficult to like get through to, right? But that's just who she was. Her personality was just like she just who she was, and everyone in our office felt that way. She then had the role that I grew to have eventually. But when I tell you, like, there were moments where I had to go in a closet and just like bawl because she like overwhelmed the shit out of me with the way that she handled me. Like, I just didn't understand it. And I felt as though, like, as a black woman, she should have like found a better way to communicate with me to help me learn about the things that I was doing that were wrong.
I'm gonna say, go ahead.
But what was interesting, what I had come to learn, so I never developed a relationship with her. What's interesting is that like we still have opportunities to come together, but I knew that she wanted me to succeed, right? I also recognized that while I was working under her, I caused issues for her, right? And I don't think it had anything to do, because I think she gave me a chance. Like, I came from a different industry, blah, 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 blah. And I was eventually successful naturally, right? I'm still at the organization. But what she was experiencing at that time, I think at that time, like she might have been seeking a promotion, and she also had shit against her. Like the role of like operations in schools were very service oriented, so folks just expected you to shut up and do, and like I wasn't a shut up and doer all the time. So like, so sometimes like I contributed, I made things difficult, right? When I thought that I was just jumping in and bringing like new fresh ideas and just doing shit. So I say that to say, there was that woman who had given me a chance because she hired me. I know I seemed qualified, but I clearly came from another industry, right? And she wasn't super warm and I felt as though she should have been as a Black woman, but I also recognized that I put her in positions that made it difficult for her in an atmosphere that was already challenging, being a leader, being a Black woman leader whose ideas wasn't always well received in that organization anyway. So I don't think that she meant to be mean to me. I think the circumstances and the fact that she had pressures, like holding her accountable too, created that tension. Yeah. And and it's those types of things that I think that can happen that make it feel as though like we're not trying to see each other win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I agree with both of you guys to a certain extent. I think we don't go above and beyond to help each other, but I think it's because of the systematic roadblocks that have been put in place. Like, this shit isn't by mistake. This shit was done purposely. If we allow them to, unite and get together, then we're gonna be fucked. So let's create this, bunch of shit. Like, yeah, somebody does get a leadership position, but the microscope is on them just a little bit more. So if you fuck up, it's really on her, and so she has to be extra hard on you now because X, Y, Z, and that shit, it's a trickle down effect. So, we could do a little bit more, but, it's kind of the system that it's a little bit of both.
I would swear up and down that I'd be trying to, like, advance the lives of people of color at our school, right? But
I'm sure there's somebody that says that about you.
And I know that there's someone who's saying, like, oh, this bitch is just sitting down there not doing shit, right? Yeah. So, just so it be.
She should have let me get...
I just feel like overall, though, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like we have... overcome a lot. We could just try harder. I just
agreed.
Even with people that are, I don't know. I just feel like a couple of my friends. I feel like some of them have gotten to certain positions. I feel like by now, but I don't feel like even though they have hiring power, it's not to the level of I can just bring you in here. And I feel like maybe it's a misconception on our part. Maybe we just feel like they operate like that, and it's not the case.
And this is with the assumption that the assumption that we're aligned about how we feel about what it takes to advance or bring someone on. You know what I mean? Because people also have different beliefs about what that looks like. Some people might say, like, well, I've told my company to go to recruitment fairs for HBCUs. I've done my part. You know what I mean? Other people might say, like, I brought my sister, my cousin, my uncle, my aunt, all of these motherfuckers, like, up in here. So we all up in here. So, like, that's another factor to it, which is why it seems like we're not organized, when the reality is that, like, it happens. We also don't know what the spirit of it looks like as a whole, because everyone has different understandings or interpretations of what it looks like.
I mean, it all goes back to, like, just the effort. I mean, to Raine's point, I mean, everyone's making essentially the same point. It's about the effort and also the belief. I think that we got to get rid of that stigma of you're here, but I'm stuck here, and you're going to keep me stuck here as long as you have that over my head kind of thing. Like, I feel like we as Black people, we don't know how to uplift one another or bring each other up where we are or level up at the same time.
I got theories.
We have to be...
Without feeling like... I mean, then it comes back to the crabs and barrels.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's just like you have to be...
And we're not the only ones who do that.
You're right. And I just think, like you said, like, if you have hiring power, if you have that type or influence, right? I mean... like, case in point, like when last year when I was doing the whole after school thing, you were the first person I thought about. You know what I'm saying? My whole thing was...
Actually, I remember that because he was like, oh, I got a homegirl who could. And I was like,
yeah,
cool.
and like my whole thing is like, what's the term? Everybody eats, B. Like, I want to, if I'm in a position, I want to make sure everybody in my circle eats, because that's how I was raised essentially, right? We need to collectively do that in any capacity. Not even if you don't have the fucking highest, you don't have the authority, right? If you're not a principal, if you are in that influence, if you have that influence, at least the effort, the belief. I think we don't have that, and
I think that's a false statement.
I don't think it's a false statement.
I think it's
I
a
honestly
false,
don't think
broad
so.
statement. I think we have different understandings.
I need
of
you to
what
get
that
closer
is.
to the mic, man.
I think we have different understandings of what that is. I think that is a false, broad statement. I think
Oh.
we have different understandings of what that is.
I'm
I
just
don't
saying
think
that
so.
it's just like with everything. We're not in unison with a lot
Yeah.
of things, man. It's like, and I don't think that differences of opinion should just make it be where we can't come on one accord.
But then it has to be someone who chooses to organize.
Right.
And
like
then that
how,
one organized. And then that
right.
one organized. We all need to be on the same accord. And we're not, because we all have our different agendas. Whereas I'm going to keep Carnegie Kid here because I'm going to advance here because I don't want him to get to where I am.
Omar. I can't wait to talk offline with you. Because this is how I be feeling like in my current place, right?
Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
Okay.
Nobody from my job is listening. So fuck y'all.
Awkward silence.
I know.
Fuck everybody in my job.
Okay,
Fuck y'all, I'm
okay,
playing.
there you go.
I'm
There you
playing,
go.
I'm playing, I'm
There
playing,
you
I'm playing,
go.
I'm playing. Shout out to y'all.
Well, Sharif, you want to step into this?
I've had experiences where me being like a school leader where I have felt as though I might have been making decisions in the best interest of the school and the staff. But it takes so much work to get everyone to be organized because sometimes their individual interests and individual desires supersede, right? Not supersede the, like what they feel as though the needs are of the school, and as it should, right? Because everyone has you have full authority over your own life. So that is what, like, those are the things that you're prioritizing your decisions over. But I feel as though I've been in a position to see how difficult it could be to organize someone under like one accord and have multiple ideas of how to achieve it and not be able to move toward making progress or make as much progress as anticipated because everyone wasn't bought into the way of doing it, right? When the reality is, like, there are multiple ways of achieving things. It's just really about like having everyone committed to getting it done. But another like fallacy about that is that 100% of people are going to be in agreement about how it is, right? 100% of people are not going to be in agreement. But if you also don't have the spirit of like, I might not 100% agree, but for the greater good, given that the rest of the folks in this room might support that idea, let me push that forward.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been in a position to see people digress and not push forward.
Right.
So like,
But I'm saying that's what we have as a people.
I've seen it.
Right.
And, just leave it at that before you and
Well, I think we can transition into like
let's not transition into the chicken pox theory.
no, we're gonna.
Let's not.
I was gonna say we can transition into like, but I think we should wait because I didn't get a chance to watch.
Kamala Harris, you talking about?
Well, I was going to transition not into just her, but more so the truancy law that she put in effect, and also just this private education versus public school education.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are talking about Killer Mike being on the Breakfast Club, and
I missed that whole interview.
I have to watch
I
it.
see
I
you
didn't
wearing
watch
this.
it.
Did you? So BT Dubs, Crip Cola is dead ass on the market because one of my friends posted a picture of it.
Oh, really?
Yesterday.
Dope.
Okay.
That's
It's
dope.
dead ass on the
Shout out to
market.
them.
And I saw your sweater. It made me wonder. Like it reminded me of.
Oh yeah, my guy Aura God, he's like a fashion guy. He
That shit
created
is hard.
it.
Yeah,
Word,
that
shout out
shit
to Aura
hard,
God.
yo, for
This
real.
is his
Where can we
own
buy
custom.
some of that shit?
Yeah, he just does like 101. So
Yo, that's dope. Tell him I want to get up with him because I'm trying to wear more shit like that. So you go outside, nobody has
no
that
one
on.
got it.
Yeah,
Nobody's
you're
having
not
shit
getting
on where
that
you go
one-on-ones.
somewhere.
You're not getting
like,
that.
Nobody's getting
No, you're not getting that.
Obviously,
No,
I'm
he can
saying
create his
that I
own.
want to have something that
I'm fucking with
I know I'm kind of familiar
fucking
with,
with you.
numbers and how that works. And there's one that's like that one.
Word.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Aura guy. But
Word, that's dope.
whatchamacallit, but
Damn,
I
I need a
heard a
soundbite
clip
for that.
of what he said about that's why I want to watch the whole interview. But just the topic of public school education versus private school education.
Oh, you mean like charter school?
Oh, and I didn't
No, it was
particularly
just-
agree with his methods.
At all. I
Around
didn't agree with it.
about
Based on
education.
the clip about education.
What did he say?
But based on what he even did with the documentary, I was just like, this is a little far fetched. But go ahead.
The part that's what I have to see the whole thing because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but what I did see is him saying that you should be able to go to a school that's named MLK, and he basically was saying that black people should not be going to private school.
I have the clip. If
Okay.
You wanna...
Good shit.
This is an ad for a project management tool called Monday.com. This is what it looks
Shout
like.
out to Monday.com.
This
A lot of
what it
mercy.
feels like.
See, because we always love that cop out of, hey, man, you know, we sent my children there for a better education, but the same niggas be telling me how much they paid for college. Your children ain't rewarding that by scholarshiping. After you do them years, you're not directing your children to Howard, not you. You're not directing your children to Howard or Morehouse or Spelman or Bethune-Cookman or Tuskegee University. Then you doing some further chump shit. You done telling them for 5-6 years, you done been called a nigga. You done got a twisted word. Oh, it's a great education. The education don't even teach you as Egypt is in Africa. Don't teach you to be proud of nothing about yourself. It just teaches you how to take tests well and how to participate and coordinate according to the system and the way they teach you. And you never thought, God damn, I could start my own Montessori school, where it's 8 kids in the whole school. And I'm not saying this because I heard this shit in some goddamn chump-ass rhyme from a chump-ass rapper. I own a third of a block
Kanye.
in Atlanta.
And I
hold. The second block next to me was bought by 5 white people who didn't even know each other. And they started a Montessori school within 3 months. Nigga, do something. I used to wonder to myself, man, why is Dick Gregory so mad? Because he cussed me and Tip out the first time we met him. He said, man, what y'all niggas gonna do? March, the same shit we been doing 50 years? Nigga, they gonna tell you to march, you got to be off the streets by 7 o'clock. If you ain't ever gonna keep, the schools seem better because you buying into that. Why are we not starting our own academies and supporting them? Why are we not supporting historically black colleges and universities? That's where our heroes went. That's where they came from. Dr. King went to Booker T. Washington. You gonna show me a nigga smarter than him?
So on the documentary, for context, one of the things, and I might say that word very different from other people. One of the things that he said was that he felt as though following the Great Depression, that there was a black middle class, and that was the time where you notice like the black community, I guess, pouring money and circulating money into their own community. Yeah. Because you had you needed to have a black dentist, in order to receive care. You needed to have a black doctor. And so like it just forced people into black middle class. But that was also the time where like you had black folks on there was diversity in the types of careers and trades that black folks developed at that time. There were black folks who were going for plumbing trades and building contracting trades and things of that nature. And he felt as though like the current educational system is pushing everyone to aspire to higher ideals. The way that he framed it on the thing on Netflix, it seems controversial because it almost seems as though he's asking folks to like dumb down their kids' dreams. But there's like a very valid point with what he's saying, that if everybody is aspiring to be a rapper or the president or XYZ, then like who the hell is going to like be the folks doing this stuff, and why aren't black people just like investing in the opportunity to do that? That was my takeaway, but like I also felt as though that could be controversial, and I feel like it feeds into like the shit that he was just saying.
Well,
I was just gonna say he hit it on the head as far as like the education system currently. We're teaching our kids how to take exams well, but they don't even know where Egypt was, and that hit a core because most of our kids are.
I don't know what kids you're talking about.
I'm just saying in general, not our kids, but I'm just saying most of our kids are in that realm. They're not as prepared for life as we think we're preparing for. We're not, and I don't know. That hit a core
like,
a little bit.
The part I do agree with is because my mother did that where after high school she was not necessarily championing what's how you say the word championing black colleges. I don't know why. So I feel like. See, before it's another part of that where he calls black parents chumps who send their kids to private school.
I think that's when him and Envy got into it.
Right. See, that's the part I want to hear, because that's the part I didn't agree with, because the only reason why. So I made a post because I was
You want me to look for it?
What
that piece?
Yeah, if you can, because I made a post, and this is just based on my assessment of the post, right? Because after hearing the Kamala Harris truancy law, where she wanted to basically hold parents accountable for their kids not coming to school. I mean, who else is supposed to be held accountable? Actually, you know what I mean? Like, children cannot be held accountable.
Well, actually,
well, no. Well, I'm saying
Yeah.
her law in
they
particular,
actually still do. That's why we send out
right
the messengers.
in Cali was that she wanted to basically put parents in jail if their kids didn't come to school.
Oh shit.
And so people had an issue with that, right? So I was trying to get to the root of it before I even touched on that. So I made a post and I just asked people, because based on the research, Black Twitter is on her ass, right? They're not feeling that, right? But as a Black person who had private education like all my life, and then kind of seeing, because private education is not just what it is, right? It is the parent thing. This is where I do agree with him, right? He was basically saying that parents have to be hands-on,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're sending your child to a public school.
Mm-hmm.
He was calling parents chumps that are not willing to just be hands-on to like assist in the education, right? But there, to me, is a clear distinction. See, I don't really get caught up in that shit. I'm not that person where I'm like, oh, I'm so educated and this means something. Like, there are Black people that think that too. Like, oh, I got these degrees. That means fucking shit. Like, real talk.
It's really about the ability to read and interpret, my friends.
Right.
I think I found it, guys.
Okay.
Now I'm not talking about you.
See, so you can sit here and say the chump shit all day long,
I'm not
right?
talking about you. I'm telling you, light skin, and I'm getting your feelings, but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about working class people.
Pause right there.
I'm talking again.
Pause right there. Even that dumb shit. Like, you negated your whole thing by even
calling
saying
out
you
his
light
light-skinned
skin.
business.
That's just stupid.
It's
About
known
working.
that-
No, I'm just saying, like,
Even
even
though
that,
I feel
now
it's-
it makes me it makes me now, before he continues, it makes me even, because that negates your consciousness to me. Like, what the fuck is that?
No, I
Because
think
that wasn't
I
being
think that's
funny.
Devil's advocate. I think maybe it was just playing into their rapport, possibly. I don't know. Maybe if they have like a relationship where he thought he can say that.
Was
you
it
know what I'm
received
saying?
as a joke?
I don't. I mean,
No, I'm
this is
saying
my
you're
first time.
watching
You're right.
it. I'm saying I can't see it. I'm hearing it, and it annoyed me. So
It wasn't initially because I'm looking at his reaction now, but
a lot of those public school teachers are not getting paid, are overworked, and some of them are not putting the effort out because
They don't
some
give
of
a
them are
fuck.
the worst teachers in the
I
country.
don't agree. I'm here to defend teachers. You are full of shit.
I
As
gotta disagree
taxpayers,
with that, too.
My mom is a public school
yeah,
teacher.
you full of shit.
Yeah.
You full of shit. You full of shit.
My mom been a public school teacher for 30 years.
Some
Don't
DJs
try to act like the children in private school don't have better resources available
do.
to them. Like, that's
And
a
you
fact.
know what made me see it?
Like, being
That's
mad
a-
that somebody
this is where
sending their
he's
kids
like,
like you saying, yeah.
you
nah,
not.
man.
First of all,
Nah,
even
bro.
with that in that conversation, it's like I can relate to his passion but I've learned to level like. It
You don't gotta
defeats the
agree with
purpose.
somebody 100%.
Right,
Yeah,
you
he's
don't.
dope, but that part, no.
But it defeats the purpose of engagement if I'm not even going to hear what
Yeah,
you're saying.
that's real.
First of all, you're not right. He's not even right. You know why I'm basing that? Because my post showed me that. This is what I wanted to say. But before I even gave my opinion on her truancy law, I wanted to see how people felt about education, right? So I asked people, I'm trying to remember exactly what I asked, like, how do they feel that Black parents, like, how high do Black people place education? Was basically the question.
It's so funny. I'm in the middle of writing a statement of purpose for application to a program, and I legit
what program?
I'll speak about it offline. I don't want to put it out there because I don't want to.
But listen, you
jinx.
know, but
I'm
I
being
asked
silly.
that, right?
Mhm.
And so there's different people that follow me. So I just wanted to see because I didn't want to make an assessment. This is what I do often, which is why I don't understand why people always just come at me like, you know, I always do this before I say what I want to say.
Mhm.
Because I want to do the research. I want to know how people feel about Black parents and education.
What was the response that you got?
The consensus was that it's Black parents do not place education high.
You're absolutely right.
I think that's all crock of shit.
Wait,
think-
nope. Wait. Then it was one comment was a separation, which I was annoyed by, so I didn't even respond to him. Where he basically said, "Well, African and West Indians particularly hold education high." So I found that offensive. Even though I know that's a stereotype, right? I didn't respond to that, so I was like, cool. But a lot of people were defensive and were like, yes, mainly yes meaning like they do place education high.
Got it.
Wait, but and I felt like
people are overcritical of black people.
But hold up. I'm a black person, and I'm just saying. Wait,
no, I'm just talking about even the people that were feeding into the responses.
Right, but I'm saying the people who just gave one word answers like "yes, we do" were to me the parents that actually do. So you're not really answering from the standpoint of being a child yourself. Now, the reason why I said that, right? Let me say from my standpoint, my experience. My mother clearly placed education high, and I know that in comparison to a lot of women in general. Right, I now as a woman, I'm proud of the fact that education was high. It doesn't mean something as far as status in life. I'm just saying the way I think, where that's important to me. So as a child, I was kind of like a nerd where I'm the kid that my mother placed it so high. This is what I was trying to say. The question I really asked was, is it ingrained?
So
let me finish. I don't think overall it is ingrained. It's not ingrained. Wait, let me finish. I'm saying that because I'm saying as myself. If you're me as a child, I'm the child that I cannot get less than an A. For myself, it was ingrained so hard, and not like she made me like it. She made me love reading books, and so I'm saying that it got to the point where if we didn't have school, I was like a nerd like that in like 5th grade. Like we didn't know school, I'm crying.
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? Right, whatever. I'm saying I'm half and half. I'm geek chic. You know what I'm saying? Like so, it's like okay, and I'm comparing myself, and I'm seeing that, and I'm like okay. This is not something. Now, my peers, this is where I was saying where it's different for private education, right? Now, one of my homegirls, she went to private school with me up until 6th grade, and then she went to public school. So she kind of had a basis, and she did great. She went to Syracuse after public school. I'm just saying it's different cases, but her parents also did invest in private education prior to junior high school. So based on the comments and based on my own experience, I do feel like there is an extreme difference in education between public and private. And I feel like if you have the basis in your younger years, I'm using her as an example, where we differ. Because now we can compare. She's doing way better, I'm saying, as far as America is concerned. Like, she went to Syracuse. She has a high-paying job, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying I want that to be said, that I'm not saying that my private education makes me better, but I do feel like my private education, especially in high school, because I was at a certain level in high school, I was placed into another program where I got the guts of my consciousness, though, where I learned that. Like, that's something that also needs to be taught at 15 through 17, where we had to read a book a week in the summertime. Who's reading books in the summertime? We didn't like doing that shit, but it was all black authors. It was a program that was geared towards, like, if you excelled in high school, you were placed in this program. Well, you had to apply to get in this program. And it's a 2-year program that really affected my life because I feel like that's what gave me the basis of my consciousness. That's outside of high school. But that was afforded to me because of a private education is what I'm trying to say. So when I hear him say stuff like that, and based on the comments, it's not ingrained in us. And the best comment was from Shayna Ashley, where she said, I think the importance is, like, black people think education is important, but actually the education, like the I forgot how she worded it, is not. And I'm saying that my mom ingrained it in me where it made me want to do it for myself.
I think that the point that you just alluded to, that your friend had shared, I think is a place where I come from. And so I legit just wrote this in my paper yesterday. I'm going to pull it out and show y'all.
Offline.
My parent, like, education was a non-negotiable in my household.
Mine too.
But I committed to it out of fear. I didn't commit to it because of an intrinsic desire to learn, right? That was my upbringing. And, like, it was important. Like, I just knew that my ass better do good and better make A's or B's and just get your shit done. But it wasn't that me and my parents had a deep conversation around, like, this is why, like, you have to, like, commit to educating yourself. We didn't have a conversation around what it meant, like, what educating myself looked like, right? So for me, going to school, listening to the teachers and things of that nature, turning in the work that they told me to do, I did what I was told to do. It wasn't building deep personal investment in the activities that I was being asked to do. It is not until my academic experience was unique because I did go to private school in the Caribbean, and I came here and I went to a public school in one of the shittiest school districts in the United States in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And to not go down that lane, I felt like my father and my mother prioritized education. I graduated salutatorian of my class. I went to Penn State, and then I got an F my first semester. Right? I could have failed. I could have failed thereafter because that was something that wasn't customary to me. But it was clear that I wasn't prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say, someone, if looking at me as a statistic, had I dropped out, could have said oh, her parents didn't value education. That's why she didn't follow through. Blah 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 blah. I think we assume that people know what it takes, what these things mean, right? I feel as though people in the of the Black community believe that education is important. I don't believe we understand the purpose of education in our lives as they are all the time.
Well, that's the consensus.
Nor the roles that you play in facilitating that for yourself or your children, especially if you're unfamiliar with.
But that's instilling, and that's ingrained means where you have to be. That's what I'm trying to say. Where I feel coupled with the private education, it was also my mom being very hands-on.
Mm.
And a lot of the people that responded, they were saying they don't feel like a lot of Black parents are that hands-on. So it's almost like nowadays school is looked at as a babysitter.
Agreed. But I also do feel as though there are circumstances. Sorry, McCray. I do feel as though there are circumstances where it may feel more challenging to some families to be as hands-on as raising children would require them to be, because there are some parents who are working tough jobs, so their schedules are thrown off and they can't hold their kids accountable. My dad had a completely different work schedule. If my mom didn't ingrain the value of education in me when I moved here, I could have got away with murder. Because he wasn't checking my homework. He ain't checking none of that shit. I knew it was important, right? I knew it was important for that shit to be done.
Right.
Yeah, but I say that to say I had a different lifestyle in the Caribbean than I did here. And my dad raising me as a...
You proved my point, though, that you came here at what age?
10, 11.
So this is it's almost comparable to my homegirl, where I said that she was in private school up until 6th grade, and then she went to public school.
But I don't think so. And don't get me wrong, I don't think private school is what built my foundation. To be honest, I don't think I learned academic discipline until college. I don't feel like private school or any of that shit did that for me.
I think for the most,
I feel as though high expectations of my families, and then failing is what did that.
I think for some people, people can say that. I know for me, I can say that I learned my discipline when I went away to college. However, I will say
I lost discipline.
I mean, for me, it was I didn't have my dad who instilled in me, who was the main reason, who instilled in me the discipline, the mental toughness to withstand certain obstacles or whatever within education. However, to your point, Raine, I do agree that the Black families or Black people, they don't put education up there because...
Disagree.
Okay, that's cool. I'll let you talk. Let me talk.
Yeah.
So I say that to say I've been involved in education for almost 10 years, 8 years. I've seen different realms of, families, right? You get those who ingrain their kids into study habits, things like that. We know those kids. And then we get those kids who just don't have it. They don't get that support at home. And you can't really compare when we grew up, because you think about it, we didn't have the distractions that parents have now. They got cell phones, they got all these things, keeping up with the Joneses and all that stuff. They don't have those distractions, right? So I just think it's not, because look what's available now. Everything is instant. You can sit in front of a fucking computer and be famous. So why should I instill education in you when you can build your wealth on doing something that doesn't really need an education?
What is education? Can we operationalize the term education?
Well,
really
I'm just
quickly?
speaking as far as school institutes.
No, but
Or
if we
education
operationalize, because we speak about this, right? And we're speaking about, like, as the question is, like, do families want their children to have education? And when I think about education, education is supposed to be, like,
No, she
developing
said
skills.
Education and intelligence
No.
are two totally different
Yeah,
things.
but
I think that's what we
Raine's
need to establish.
Raine said
But I
like
think that level, I totally agree with that. But I also feel like the level of intelligence does come from education.
and I agree
I
with
think
that, but it's
It's
not a
bred.
value.
I
It's
think
not
bred.
valued now.
All
within
education is a reflection of how well you did in the schooling system
Yeah.
that was put in place to specifically make you
No,
a
but you can be
cookie-cutter
educated
version
by-
of certain, you need to come out a certain way.
Yeah.
So you have a degree, that means you went through the gauntlet and you sat through the, but like, that's
Mhm.
not a direct reflection of
Of
intelligence.
course not.
Because I know people with master's degrees that are, not to say, but you dumb as shit. You just went through.
Yeah, you just
know
went
how
through
to
the
fit
rigor.
through. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
sit
Right.
down. You can retain information. You can sit down and take
But-
a test.
You can do
But-
that
What I
really
will
well.
say
But you
is
can
to
be
say-
educated outside of a school system.
Absolutely.
Of
No, no,
course.
but yeah, what I'm saying is education does not equal intelligence.
Yeah.
No,
what
it
I will
doesn't.
say about the public and private school thing, I think it's more of a chicken and egg situation. It's not a fact that the kid that goes to private school comes out of school better. It's they're starting from a better foundation. They're starting from a family who can afford to say, look, we have X amount of dollars to attribute to your
send you through
education.
that,
And there
yeah.
is a direct link between socioeconomical status and education and how far you will go. Because if you're worried about when your next meal is going to come, you're not really worried about books
Yeah.
or doing a book report. You know what I'm saying? So there's a direct link. Not to say that, because this kid went to private school, they came out smarter. No, their family is probably a little bit
Well,
more
that's
well
the
off.
part-
And that kid probably
Yeah.
can use more of their energy towards education rather than the kid that's
That's
coming
the
from
part
so
that-
that's kind of what it is.
yeah.
I went to public school my entire life, and I had family members that went to private school, and not to talk about y'all, but I was always smarter than y'all. Y'all know that. Like, it wasn't,
Right.
and that shit, like, it's a fact. It's known. Y'all wasted all them thousands of
But
dollars.
do
My
you
mother's
think
like,
that
yo, I'm not wasting that money.
But do you feel like your mom was also more hands-on?
Definitely hands-on, but I like Q said, like, my homework never got checked. Like, I want to say even first grade, second, it was just
Yeah.
something of like,
And maybe she was fair and knew like they instilled enough fear
yeah,
in my ass for me to get
I
it
was
done.
scared as shit. Yeah, no, I knew I could not come.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I used to see motherfuckers celebrate over 75s. I used to be like, you could bring that shit home. Like, I can't bring this shit home, but still, it wasn't, like my mother wasn't on my back. It was just kind of like, yo, you know what you got to do, bro.
But
Go do your shit.
for our parents then, right? So this is an example. I think I'm having difficulty articulating something because for me, right? Education is affording a student with the ability to develop skills, right? So that they can learn how to function in society and contribute to society and be productive in society. Am I right or am I wrong? Right. And I think any parent who's about to have a child who's pushing 18 wants them the fuck out their house, right? So I think hear me out. So I think for the basis of it, like there are most families who want their students to have the ability to self-sustain, if that makes any sense, and function in society, and then maybe even be able to challenge their ambitions. I think over the years we have all had differences in opinion about what that meant, and I feel like sometimes we take for granted what living in a suppressive environment does for a culture of people, and how the educational systems fed into that, and so. We have created a cycle of people who don't completely understand or haven't internalized their own personal goals around education. So for them to so we have these families who even in present day are raising children and who are spending their hours in a school with young people who are not self-actualized, right? Facilitating instruction to them.
What do you mean self-actualized?
Young people who are not even confident enough about themselves who are equipped to be able to teach a class and not not leverage oppressive habits and skills toward children because they don't know how to deal with it, because they don't know self-control. That's what I mean by not being self-actualized. Sorry. Okay. You can tell I feel very strongly about this. I say all of this to say, I think everybody wants their people, their family, their children, blah, 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 to have an education. I feel as though we do not all understand, education is something that does not have a clear definition. And I think we underestimate, we don't pay attention to how that plays a role in like our differences in expectations around education, because someone might, like I might have assumed that my family was hard strung on education, but the reality is I went to a shitty school, right? My dad might have been he might have participated in the PTA, so he might have been active in that regard, right? But I still went to a shitty school where there were low expectations, where there was a U.S. history teacher who didn't collect any fucking classwork or homework or gave any tests or anything. You see what I'm saying? So I say and I don't know shit about U.S. history because like that was my legit experience. But I say that to say my dad was involved, but I still received that shitty education because he didn't understand how to question that standard. Because I got an A. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so I say that to say, like, I don't think that people are not invested or not involved. I think their circumstance. I think we don't understand how multifaceted, like the pitfalls of living, of trying to rise from oppression is. Yeah. And I feel like all of these, like, it's not to blame it on it, but it's like it's to say, like, you guys, let's not ignore the root causes
to predominantly black neighborhoods are like lower funded.
I get that.
And allow their kids to stay home for nothing.
Yeah. No, agreed. But let me give you another scenario. Let me give you another scenario. A child who might be like hyperactive, disruptive in class for a myriad of reasons, none of which I understand because like I'm not a psychologist, right? And so I don't necessarily have this. The teacher doesn't necessarily have the skills to understand what's going on with the child. The mom doesn't know like why it is that the child only responds to her, but like is spazzing out in class, and the mom has to receive multiple calls day in and day out. So I've been on the other side of the phone with a parent who like cannot receive another call to come pick up their child from school because that child is being disruptive and the teachers don't know what to do with them. It's an unfortunate circumstance. Like, it's easy to point the finger at that parent at that time because it's like, what the fuck did you do with this kid? Why is this kid reacting that way? But the reality is, like, the mom does want the best for that child and might just not know what to do. But there are people who would say that mom is not supportive or not advocating for that child. You see what I'm saying? So I just say all of that to say, along with our history comes like a lot of circumstances that we have yet to unearth or define or demystify that attributes to like the success of students being able to function in environments in organized environments like schools. And I feel as though like schools are not yet as equipped to support students in certain communities because they're not paying attention to the things like to the real needs that are going to allow that child to be able to like deal with some of the simple traumas that they deal with on a day-to-day basis to learn.
But what about just truancy? What about just not going to school? Now,
so even that, right? Even though I understand that angle, it doesn't address the root cause of the issue. Like, so, and I get it. Like I was making chronic absenteeism calls last week to families, letting them know that like your child has exceeded like 10% absence rate. There's no reason for children to not be in school, right? And there's no reason for children to not be in school.
There are though, like, but there's basic life shit that has to come, unfortunately, before education. Like, you gotta be alive to go to school. If you battling to be alive, you can't fucking go to school. Like that shit, I ain't got no pencil. That poem that they read, that the kid wrote or something. Like, I had to get my little sister dressed. I had to go get her some breakfast. I do this, and you bitching at me because I ain't got no pencil. Like, I don't got time to worry about my fucking pencil. Yep. Like, I gotta fight for something to eat. Like,
we have a student right now who's responsible for like her other siblings for making sure that they're ready in the morning because because some of her like guardians at home are not doing well, right? So she's late every day or whatever the case is. You look from the outside in or just look at her statistics, and she's also disruptive, right? Like, and there are a lot of other things, right? But she's also smart, right? I know that her family values education. I know that her family advocates for her. The circumstances of the family, however,
offline conversation. No, I'm just saying, for me, to that situation.
I was talking about my old school.
No, you wasn't.
Okay, you blew it up, dry snitching ass. Like, what the hell?
But like, I know that they value education, but like when one parent has to be like worrying about like making sure that a steady paycheck is coming, that the like medication is there for the mom, that all the children are fed, and blah 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 blah. Is he worried about my conversation around like her being tardy? Hell no.
Hell no.
Is he worried about my conversation about like her being
See,
absent
even with
one
stuff
day or
like
two?
that, I
It's
just
not
feel like-
ideal. It's not ideal, but
so what?
sometimes
I
that's the
mean,
circumstance.
But
I
also-
get it, but I feel like I look at my own self. I'm not like taking that. I'm taking that into consideration. I didn't grow
Before
up,
you
I
have
didn't
a
grow up
child.
rich.
Oh,
no, I'm
oh,
saying
sorry.
that my mom herself, like one single parent, busting her ass, going to work.
Mm.
It's like, how much does it matter to you?
No, and so don't get me wrong, right? Because people are assuming that kids are truant because their families
Not
are
the
just
kid.
keeping
How much
them
does
home.
it matter to the parent?
No. And so another factor to that, because I feel as though it matters to parents. Most of the
but
parents
you
that I
just
work
said-
with,
You just said, is he thinking about that? Well, he needs
thinking
to be
about
thinking about that.
thinking about the child being on time, not necessarily
Yeah,
but
be
that's still
on
having the
time.
same priorities. Like I think he would want the child to be on time, but he also understands that there are other circumstances that might take priority for him.
But you gotta wake up early.
It's not ideal. I agree.
This is
I
not- I'm
don't
not jacking
disagree.
that. I'm
I
not
do not
jacking that, man.
disagree.
Wake up, yeah. Like you
I do
have
not
to do
disagree,
certain
but
things to
it's
make sure
easy-
your child
Go ahead.
gets to school.
I don't disagree. It's easy for me to say that. Look, I don't have kids. I 100% agree. Sitting on the side of a person, like sitting on the side
but
of the
you
one,
were a
one
child.
making the phone calls, but I also see when like students do have the ability to get to school on time and they make a choice because they have so many responsibilities. They just want to do dumb shit for a moment, so they decide not to come to school. They decide to like act out and do other things because
Because it's
they,
not
because they feel as
ingrained.
though
Yeah.
because they feel as though what is being asked of them is too much.
Right, but that's also because that's my point. It proves it's not ingrained.
And it also
It's not.
And the foundation to me, and it always stays true to me, the foundation starts at home, and we as teachers, educators, we have to perpetuate that within the
It
school
has to be
day.
ingrained by the
has to be
parent.
ingrained by the parent, but that's what I'm saying. It starts.
The parent is
yeah.
lax. I mean, they are
It's not.
Guys,
It's not a balance, right? So if I'm dealing with a kid who's just
I look
on a
at
day
When you say ingrained, I think ingrained is a word. Sorry, I had to.
like I say,
But-
hip hop is ingrained in me. Like I couldn't grow up in the '80s and not be in the Bronx and not know and not be in love with hip hop. Just couldn't.
yeah, and,
Because
and
it literally was ingrained. Like you could walk
It's
outside,
essential.
it's there. I'm on the school bus with it's hip hop. Everything is hip hop. You cannot grow up in the '80s and be and not be about hip hop. You just could not. It's ingrained in the
Like
culture.
I
and
Go ahead.
this is the point that I want to make, but I don't know how to do it. The acquiring of education is oftentimes relegated to a child going to school, meeting a certain like a set of expectations, and going home, right? And getting scores and things of that nature. I say this to say, I don't know if it's as easy as saying that something is not ingrained. The reason why I'm harping on this idea of education having different meanings to different people is because if the value for that family is on the child understanding how to interpret information, and regardless of whether or not that child comes to school or not, their grades are high enough, you're recognizing that they have high comprehension skills. Like you are, like in your mind as a parent, you see that you're setting your child up for success. You're seeing evidence that you're setting your child up for success because their grades are showing that they're doing fine, right? So it does, like, again, like if your value is on like my child is able to articulate themselves, able to read, able to interpret those things, and you see that happening, right? And you don't necessarily think that, okay, because being on time is about discipline, right? It's about like leveraging discipline and recognizing that like in the outside world, when you go and work in companies and shit like that, you got to be on time and things of that nature, right? But that is not like, when we say, like, is education valuable? Yes. Is being on time, like, held to the same value as folks? It might not necessarily be. This is, like, so for that reason, like, this is why I feel like Ms. Harris's policy is problematic, because it does not address the root, and it still leaves a lot of room for interpretation on so many different levels.
What is the root?
I feel the root is, I feel as though people speak about investing in educating the child. I feel like you cannot educate the child without the parent.
I think
Yes, and that's what she's saying.
But schools
The
are not
parent-
obligated to educate their parents.
No, she's saying that if your child is not coming to school, it's your fault. Period.
Yeah.
Now the extent of the law is a bit extreme. $2,000 fine. Like, and this is being placed on really poor families, right? And going to jail. That
what would
may
have
be
been more
extreme.
beneficial would be to invest those, like to have those people take classes to understand the importance and value of education in their kids' lives instead of finding them.
Maybe.
I just think with this the argument that we're having, well, not argument, but to your
The discussion.
The discussion, yeah. But I think we missing the question that was at hand. Like you asked, do you think that black families value education?
Well, not just value.
Well,
I said, do you feel like
well,
it's
yeah.
instilled?
Do you still
in the
listen
children?
instilled in the children?
Because case in point,
I
this
don't-
may be an extreme.
Yes.
And I'm saying
extreme-
I don't
it's
think
not
so.
instilled.
I disagree.
It's not.
I don't think
I
so
have
now.
way
Case in point,
more.
this may be extreme, but in Pursuit of Happiness, right?
Oh, you black ass people saying that. Sorry.
Oh,
I just hurt my feelings saying that because
But let me just say this before I forget.
wait, go ahead.
Get-
Just what quick.
Go ahead,
In Pursuit of Happiness, right?
Love that movie.
He's in very compromising situations on a daily basis, and so was his child. His child, for the most part, he made sure his child always went to school. It's a thing. It's like
It's easier said than done, though. It's like saying the one
but
person
easier
that
said
lives.
than done. They
But it's
lived on the
like-
street.
Yeah, but it's like pointing at one person that lives with one kidney and then pointing at another person that died with it. It's like, yeah, it's possible to happen, but that's still not an optimal situation. Like, you still need 2 kidneys to survive. Yeah, there's people walking around with one and they're alive, but like, you can't knock somebody for dying with one because, like, yo, you're supposed to have 2. Like, you know, there's people that make it happen when you got less than or you're dysfortunate, but you can't
But that
blame
is the
somebody else for
point.
not surviving when they're at a
I'm
disadvantage.
saying he's in the most, like, the worst situation possible for a parent and a child.
He finds a way.
But he found a way to instill in his child that no matter what, your ass is going to school.
And there was something in his upbringing that afforded that, but that child also had a mother, and she didn't stay by because she wasn't strong enough. And like, let me not say because she wasn't strong enough.
No, the
but I'm
surface
saying that
point
like
being made
circumstances
is
are
that
different.
he's in a terrible situation. But it's like real generic. I'm not trying to like because that is just so extreme. But I'm just saying, speaking to what you were saying about these different situations, you know. Again,
that's like a Polish American saying, "I migrated to this country and became successful too." I'm just saying.
I mean, another person might not even have had.
I'm just saying, like that's what that sounds like.
No, I'm saying that it's weak a little bit to be like placing all these things on children.
Yeah.
The accountability is on the parent.
The foundation.
And if you don't give a fuck about if your child comes to school if you don't, well, not you. I'm saying if the parent doesn't really care if the child comes to school on time, doesn't really care that if you're placing all these things on the child, that's also something that's wrong.
But there's still a parent that had education. What if the father in Pursuit of Happiness never had no education themselves? It's real hard
didn't
to
know
place
how
that
to.
expectation on
You don't know
someone
what you don't
who
know.
don't have it
And
themselves.
this is
You know
where
what I'm saying? Like
you
that kid
have
still
to
has
be
a
made
foundation.
accountable. Children cannot be held accountable for themselves.
I know, Raine, but I think,
These same
but
adults are
and
children
with
that came through the same shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And with that, I don't think
know.
we're
My
looking at the
mom has
historical
a high
context of
school
educated Black
education.
Americans.
All right, and so I'm also speaking from that standpoint. Why is it my mom has a high school education, not beyond high school?
I'm a big advocate.
I'm also
I have
just being
I have
like
a similar,
being,
and
Yeah.
but I'm just saying like we gotta stop. I'm not trying to be hardline. I'm just saying that these sound like fucking excuses.
I mean, but these are reasons that are contributing to this shit.
But I'm saying also I'm a product of it too.
I know, and
it's
I
not
get it.
It doesn't necessarily mean I'm not saying that. I don't want what I'm saying to be misconstrued because I'm not saying that this necessarily means you're going to be the most successful in life. It doesn't mean that. I'm just saying about it ingraining education because even now it's still very important to me to nonstop educate myself. But I'm saying that comes from it being ingrained as a child. And I'm saying like these cases, like you just said, if he didn't have an education, it's not going to be ingrained. I'm saying that that's part of the problem. So what is going to stop the cycle? What is going to make the next wave of parents understand that this is very important?
This is with the assumption that all waves are starting the same. I know, but for some people, their understanding of academic success is what, like my child made it to school every day. For some people, that is academic success because they don't know any better. For some people, it is. It's unfortunate. It's not right, but like it's the reality.
I think, like I said before, the foundation.
So maybe you're right.
Yeah,
you need to invest in schooling the parents.
I mean that too. We need to invest in that, but also
because that's just like ridiculous.
We gotta also hold the teachers or whatever the teachers that we're hiring accountable as well. Because I mean, just like we can hold the parents accountable, which I
because someone just said on the comment is black parents instill the idea of an education, but not the actual education.
Yeah.
Because the education is not only in school. It has to be the parent that's also educating their child in addition to sending them to school. And that's what I'm saying that I come from that. I come from the fact, all right, fine, private education doesn't, maybe it's a little bit more of a privilege, privilege. But then I also have, I guess, the privilege now, which it shouldn't be a privilege. It should not be a privilege that your parent that your parent is educating you, period. The parent has to still educate you. Regardless of sending you to school, it's on the parent to educate the child,
But
period.
people assume that because people have children or because they're old, they're educated. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of babies who got children out here. There are a lot of people with undeveloped brains who have very basic ass concepts and perspectives on what success looks like. So that is easier said than done when there are babies or undeveloped minds out here having children.
But again,
and that there is like a dominant story, a prevalent story.
But again,
so how do we hold these parents accountable?
Again.
It's on a societal level.
Yeah,
I don't think we can.
But I think
the
foundation starts. The foundation starts at home, but again, it starts with the school as well.
The school holds a responsibility to galvanize those constituents to have a conversation about, like, okay, like, what are our goals? What are our shared goals? How are we going to go about in doing so? How are you going to hold up your end of the bargain?
See, I'm not
Again, easier said than done.
In every show, we always see a parent. Let's just say a typical role. It would be a black mother, and she has to come to school, and then she has an attitude because she has to come to school for a child. Stuff like that shit is like, clearly, you do not.
Nah. Raine, I live it. It is not as simple as that. I live it, and I'm on the receiving end of the cuss out. I can sit here and say that it is not always that simple. Before a parent starts raising her voice at me, I've rarely had instances where a parent went off on me for no reason. Rarely. If a parent is pissed off because they're coming to the school, they have tried. Oftentimes, they have tried. I experienced that.
What?
They have tried to do what you asked them to do to support the child. They have tried to do different things, or they just don't know. And when they finally come to that school, it's because they're tired of getting the same call saying that, like, oh, like, your child is being disruptive in class. Oh, like, your child is going to serve a detention because of this behavior. Oh, your child did this. Like, oftentimes their child is doing it, or whatever the case is. Oftentimes they don't see that, like, that part of their child because that's not what they experience at home. But it's not like, oh, it's day one of school, like, you start receiving a call, fuck this, like, y'all are getting on my nerves. It's a buildup. And I watched the buildup over and over and over again. What happens is, if the constituents really matter, right? And if you get into education, you really need to be empathetic. You really need to, like, be willing to, like, learn and change the fuck who you are every day. Because the reality is, like, parents respond that way when the person on the other side of the phone don't have enough empathy to help bring them down. Because I've encountered a parent who was ready to fuck me up, and at the end of the day, like, we hugged. Like, I've been there, or whatever the case is. And people, what's interesting is that oftentimes, like, families are judging the teachers who are in the seats. Teachers are judging the parents who are in the seats. We don't recognize that we're in a partnership to develop children. So oftentimes people come to the table with their defenses on, but they come to the table with the defenses on because the person, like, who was delivering the message wasn't warm enough or didn't let them know that I'm not here to judge you.
But the thing is, too, when you got two sides not invested in the enlightenment and education of the child is going to be lost. If the parent isn't valuing education and the teacher who isn't teaching with the passion and the rigor and the empathy and the compassion, then the child will be lost. And I say all that to say this: like, the school system, right, needs to be a bit more strict on how they, I guess, look into hiring teachers and things of that nature.
Easier said than done.
It goes both.
Easier said than done. Somebody can sell you a pipe dream in an interview.
But the whole point is, then we have to tighten it up. Then there's ways we can do it. We can't just say easier said than done. We can't just say parents are responsible.
Actually,
I mean,
I'm just saying.
And that's
the
mind state. Like, we easier said than done. We can't do it, and then we're
no,
always
I'm
going to get the same results.
So I never said we can't do it. I just said that it was easier said than done. Those are two different things. Don't start making shit synonymous that ain't.
I'm not making anything synonymous.
What I am saying, however, I'm not going as hard in saying that. What I'm saying is that, like,
let me just say this, right? Because I just feel like, from my perspective, like, I went to a private school. I went to a parochial school, right? And after that, I transferred to a public school. Completely different. So different, whereas when I was in 9th grade at the private school, by the time I transferred to the 10th grade in the public school, in 10th grade, I'm being taught what I was already taught in 9th grade.
That was my
And
experience
it was
when I
just
moved to
like-
this country.
Now, is that the family's fault, or can you say like there are more resources?
Exactly my
But
point. That was
my
my
point.
point.
Exactly.
That was
dead wrong.
That was my
Like, what are you
point.
talking
Yeah,
about?
that was my
Nah,
point. Like it
absolutely.
was just the fact that
The
the
resources
resources,
available
like
to a kid
the
in
things
private
that we
school
had
are
that they
better.
had at that parochial school was way different. I'm talking about from the fucking lunch to the fucking to the technology
And
things
think
of
about,
that
and the
nature.
same thing will probably happen in
Textbooks.
these kids' families. When they
Yeah.
go home, they're probably living an elevated life. So it's way easier for that child to learn as opposed to the kid that doesn't know if they're going to have dinner that night or didn't have dinner the night before. Like, I don't give a fuck about learning. I'm hungry.
And
I'm
that's
going to
why-
share something that's I'm going to share something that's probably controversial and counterproductive, and
That's
that
why I
counters
think it
what you
needs to
says
be
because
met.
I do feel as though like they're like paucity stricken school districts have been shot of resources for a long time, right? However, I
predominantly
feel as
work
though
class.
we become over dependent on like the need for resources. Anyone can make a book, anyone can read a book, anyone can learn from a book, but everyone cannot teach the discipline and habits to do so, or everyone doesn't have the grit to deal with like multiple personalities in a room so that you can teach everyone in that room how to learn those skills. And that's what, because like we speak about like money and resources, like Einstein and them, they didn't have graphic calculators. You know what I mean? And they
Nah,
figured
I
out how to
don't
do
know.
all of this
That's-
shit.
that's-
So like I'm just saying it's not required, and there's an overemphasis on money as it relates
No,
to
I
resources
wasn't-
when there needs to be a real investment. I'm not saying
Oh,
you're
that
doing it in
wasn't my
particular,
correlation.
not you in particular. I feel like that has been the talk about education in the early 2000s. I feel like the talking about education in the early 2000s was like these schools don't have resources, which was very true because I remember going to DC and looking and seeing that the textbooks that we had were mad old.
Hell yeah.
Notwithstanding, like physics, like I felt as though there were concepts with physics that stuck out to me because Dr. Sobasan, like my Nigerian high school physics teacher, he was head set on like making sure that we were leaving there with like concepts. He was invested in educating too. So I say it to say, a lot of people like to say it's the books, it's the resources, it's the teachers, it's the families, it's a combination of it all. And the lack of understanding and like the lack of alignment across all of those spectrums that I feel as though like hinder our ability to move education forward and to like think differently about education.
I mean, my final thought on this is like, and I'm speaking from the teacher's perspective because I realize like there's different variables when raising a child and things happen, right? I just think teachers, we need to teach harder because that's where it happens. That's where it starts. Because we can't control what happens outside
Are you
of.
co-signing?
Outside
Okay,
of.
y'all on the same wave. I guess we got to snap our fingers.
Man.
But then again, it's like you're at this by the same token, you're not gonna go to the
Yeah.
school that is going to pay you less, you know, in a bad district just to go out and help them kids. And it goes back to resources.
I
The
get-
kids that are in a better
I
school
would,
have
at
better
this point.
teachers because they're paying
then-
more money because
At
a
this
better
point-
teacher's
And
gonna
listen
go there.
And listen to all of these
Like-
things that he's evaluating, right? That a teacher evaluates before they go and stand in front of a
Hell
child
yeah.
who has no knowledge.
Hell
and
yeah.
and how that person might feel when a child like disrespects them publicly, right?
But now
When
see-
they're not self-assured as a human being about their
But
purpose and
doesn't
place.
that speak to what he said though about the hiring process?
Yeah. Oh, but like,
It-
and don't get me wrong. Look, and with the hiring process,
But I'm
we
saying,
go
if you're
through
gonna
scenarios.
if you're gonna teach harder,
Mhm.
right? If you guys are on the same accord with that, then it kind of does start with the hiring process.
Yeah.
Oh.
The hiring process has to even be harder.
2 points, McCray.
No. But, and the reason why I say that is because with the current network that we're at, I've watched the hiring process like develop into this like multi-step situation, and like and in all of those circumstances, I've seen shitty people fall through the cracks and excellent people fall through the cracks. So I say it to say that like people also have mastered the skill of deception and manipulation in their first 3 impression exchanges.
Amen
And
to
like and so they're brilliant and they show you strong classroom management, but then like when they're faced with a child who challenges them, like they run out of the classroom and go in a closet and cry. Fuck. So like, but
Because
you didn't
they-
do that in the hour-long demo that we just had.
Right.
Like I didn't see that shit. Like where the fuck did that come from? So like that's why I say like easier said than done,
Right,
because
okay.
I've seen like, not saying that it still can't get better though. That's not to say.
And it will. But you know, that's
It's a
what
good
we're hopeful.
combo though. A good
Yeah.
topic.
I mean, I just
All about education.
yeah,
baby.
that's my main thing. I remember I spoke at
You
a
know,
panel
the world
and and I mentioned this. It was a panel amongst teachers, and I mentioned that I feel that we need to have a bit more of a rigorous standing on how we hire teachers, because that is very. I don't think most teachers realize. I realize this going in.
Pay y'all more.
That too, but we have a huge fucking responsibility.
It is a big ass
We are
responsibility.
molding minds.
Lives.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? And I feel
Absolutely.
like, and I don't fuck it offline, online. I think the teachers in general don't really have some teachers don't have an idea of how big of a responsibility you have.
Yeah,
When they're
You
not
understand?
self-actualized.
And that's a big problem for me. You know what I'm saying? Because we're doing the kids a disservice when you don't give 100% every day. And you brought up a good point, and Raine, you brought up a good point as well. But more speaking to your point, Reef, as far as like we don't know what these kids go through. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that it is survival for them when they leave outdoors, when they leave school. Yeah. We need to be that beacon of not just hope, but also a beacon of like, okay, you know what?
Reassurance.
Exactly.
Yeah. I used to be jealous of the kid that, and I'm not gonna say his name, but there was a kid that used to have to go to the guidance counselor a couple times a week, and it's so ill because I used to be jealous of the kid. Cause like, damn, yo, he always gets to go damn, like yo, he always gets taken out, and we used to like be jealous. And sometimes we would get to go with him, like but it's so ill being an adult looking back now, like yo, his home life was fucked up to the point where he had to be taken out of class to be counseled. I never had that, like you know what I'm like. It's so ill to look at it from both perspectives.
And I feel as though like we even underestimate the importance of like that type of presence in a school. Because kids deal with so much trauma. So much trauma.
Shout out to the
and like
guidance
those are the years where they're really like where kids are learning how to learning life skills and like what we call it is social emotional learning. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like
which is almost equally as important.
Yeah. And oftentimes they're learning, so this is to the point, right? Oftentimes they're learning the same bad habits that their families might have, right? And this is like to the point where like not just because you're a parent means that you know what's in the best interest of your child, because like some families some parents silenced their children and didn't even recognize it.
Word.
But still instilled like the value of education in them, right? But don't recognize that like that child needs to have a voice in order to be able to engage and interact with like content to be educated. So like silencing them is counterproductive. But if you don't know that that's an important factor for education, you don't recognize that like when you're beating your child for speaking up, that like you're stripping away their ability to have voice. So that's why I say that like people, everyone,
education comes from the parents.
Yeah, but if they're not educated themselves, then it's a different understanding of like what inputs are required to make that happen.
And
close on that.
Yeah, and also real quick, shout out to I can't pronounce his name, Jesse Smollett.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah,
sure
but
did.
he actually performed in California. He addressed the whole situation. He said he fought the fuck back. I mean, to quote him. And
I ain't mad.
I hope he fucked somebody up.
You know, and he actually referenced himself as the gay Tupac.
On that note, okay.
Yeah. But
Jesse, sorry.
Yeah, but I know.
Maybe because he was just saying like he represents thug life.
Yeah, I mean,
we good.
The hate that you give.
There's some holes in that story, but we gotta talk about that.
You gonna be Jesse.
What?
I don't know. Yeah.
But real quick though, if anybody's watching the Super Bowl, who y'all got? Any picks? No crickets.
I ain't watching.
I know you're streaming it.
Illegally streaming,
Illegally
baby.
streaming
Fuck
it.
the NFL.
Can I ask? Can I
I'm going
ask?
to party.
I'm going for the Patriots, I guess. Who's playing?
Patriots and the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
I'm damn sure not going for no goddamn Patriots. Nah, fuck that. That's not gonna happen.
So
If I was a bet
who you
man,
going
I
for?
would say
You going for
Patriots.
the Eagles?
For the for all the black players on the field. That's what I'm going
So
for.
she's going for both teams.
You cheering for both teams?
I'm going for Gladys, who's singing the national anthem.
Wait, that's crazy.
I hope she break out with the Negro national anthem.
I just want to say real quick. I want to
Big
shout
boy,
out.
You fucking played us.
You
son.
crazy.
My man, son. You played us.
Who?
Big boy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I don't understand what's the big deal if. Well, we should talk about.
Yeah,
we
we'll talk about that's
Next
some good
week?
next week when the Patriots win. But I want a quick shout out to my team XL Lions. We won over the weekend.
Whoop, whoop.
We won.
Let's go.
We won 34-23.
Woo,
The
okay.
boys look really good out
Yeah,
there, and I haven't had the
appreciate
chance
it.
to see the girls play yet, but the boys
Appreciate
looked
it.
really, really good out there. The other day.
Appreciate it. Their
Let's
coach
go,
is amazing.
Lions. Hell yeah.
I don't know. I saw the coach yelling at them the other day. That shit was overwhelming. I was just
coach-
playing. Shout out to the coach.
coach
Shout out
be
to the
yelling
coach.
at the kids a lot? Damn.
I don't know who that coach is. I don't know what coach you're talking about.
That's crazy.
But anyway, Unpopular Opinions, episode 22.
22.
Patriots champions.
You gonna fuck yourself up with that, man.
Nah, you good. It's all right. I did it last.
Son, your man downstairs.
Yeah, he kind of.
So what I was gonna say, it's not recorded.